Chapter 525. As the neighbors of the top sections. Although the Blue Cloud sect and the other sects did not have much dignity, their safety was still guaranteed. For Qing Su, losing face was nothing. As long as the sect's legacy was still there, he would have the capital to turn things around. At this moment, Qing Su looked at the elders in front of him and wanted to shout, "Life is full of ups and downs." But he looked at his white beard and dispelled the impulse in his heart. If he did not break through to the spirit martial realm, in another 30 years, he would be a person who would be buried in the ground. Just as the sects of the Liang Mountain spiritual domain were trembling because of the influx of experts, Yuan Zhong was also preparing for something. It was very simple. Now that the branches were moving, the first thing to do was to build a branch city to accommodate the 100,000 disciples that were about to arrive. The city was one of the foundations in the future. There was no room for carelessness in these matters. As for the permits to build the city, with Qin Shijian's current reputation, it was not a big problem to ask Marquis Baiyun for a few. Although the land belonged to the imperial court, Marquis Baiyun was the one who made the decision in the Baiyun mansion. After getting the permits, Qin Shijian immediately arranged for people to prepare for the construction of the city. Because of the urgency of the construction this time, Yuan Zhong's mission hall issued some tasks to recruit some disciples to help. Qin Shijian also found a large number of craftsmen from outside. All the materials were purchased from the carrier trading company. Regarding this, Lin Wanyu was grinning from ear to ear. Since the Liang Mountain spiritual domain had advanced, coupled with his friendship with Qin Shijian, he had directly taken the position of chief steward of the spiritual domain. The entire branch of the carrier trading company was under Lin Wanyu's control. "Elder Su, don't worry. The carrier trading company will be able to prepare these materials in 3 days. When the time comes, I will personally send them to you." In the inner hall, Lin Wanyu raised his teacup and toasted from afar. Su Yuanming also raised his teacup and took a sip. He said, "Chief Steward Lin, of course I am not worried about you. However, this construction of the branch city cannot be sloppy. The materials must be of high quality. After all, Chief Steward should know that the sect master values the construction of the city very much." "Elder Su, don't worry. I understand." Lin Wanyu's face was solemn. When Qin Shijian's name was mentioned, he didn't dare to be careless. Qin Shijian was no longer the true Dominion Protectorate Lord of the past. Back then, Qin Shijian had been on equal footing with him because he had been the Protectorate Lord of the true Dominion. However, Qin Shijian was now a heavenly man and the #1 expert of the cultivation world. Regarding this, Lin Wanyu also changed his attitude. His title as the chief steward of Spirit Realm wasn't weak. In fact, his true identity was comparable to the sect master of a large sect in Spirit Realm. But in front of Qin Shijian, it was the difference between a firefly and the moon. It was important to know one's own limits. Lin Wanyu was very clear about this. Su Yuanming said, "Fortunately, it's best that the materials used to forge the city this time are mainly Tier 5. 5th stage." Lin Wanyu was shocked. For the construction of ordinary cities, the materials used were only ordinary materials. Some of the larger cities used mostly Tier 2 and Tier 3 materials. Because a city was very big, the amount of materials needed was also huge. If all the materials were used to forge the city, the amount of silver required would be astronomical. Lin Wanyu had originally thought that Sky Origin would only need Tier 1 and Tier 2 materials to forge the city. But even so, the amount that Yuan Zhong needed was worth several 100 million taels of silver. However, after hearing Su Yuanming's words, Lin Wanyu felt that his breathing was not smooth. Big order. Super big order. The materials used to construct the 5 cities were all at least Tier 5. Lin Wanyu secretly estimated that the amount of silver that Yuan Zhong needed was at least 10 billion taels. When he thought of this, Lin Wanyu's breathing became sluggish again. Even his heartbeat slowed by half a beat. "Elder Su, are you serious?" "Of course." "Good." Lin Wanyu's fingers trembled slightly. This was a 10 billion order. Although he was the chief steward of Spirit Realm, the annual turnover of the entire Liang Mountain Spirit Realm was at most a few 100 million silver taels. Now, he was suddenly asking for 10 billion silver taels. Lin Wanyu realized that he could save 20 years of hard work. As the chief steward of Spirit Realm, he could take a cut of every transaction in the Qingyun Trading Company. Even if this cut was not much, it was enough to make one's limbs go weak. Lin Wanyu took a few deep breaths and said, "Your honorable sect wants too many materials, but I can promise you that within 7 days, no, within 5 days, I will be able to gather them all. However, Elder Su will need to pay a 20% deposit first. This is not something I can decide. This is the rule of the Qingyun Trading Company. After all, this transaction is too big." Su Yuanming said. "No problem. How much silver taels do you need?" "Wait a moment. I will get someone to calculate it," Lin Wanyu said. Then, he called someone over and whispered a few words in his ear. That person was also shocked, but he quickly bowed and retreated. Not long after, that person returned and whispered something in Lin Wanyu's ear before leaving again. Lin Wanyu said, "The materials that Sky Origin sect needs this time are worth about 12 billion silver taels. However, the exact amount depends on the actual cost of building the city. Considering the relationship between Sky Origin sect and Qingyun Trading Company, Elder Su only needs to pay 4 billion silver taels first." 4 billion silver taels. Su Yuanming's heart skipped a beat. Although he was in charge of the Sundry Hall, he could not remain calm in the face of so much silver taels. However, fortunately, although Su Yuanming was shocked, he maintained a calm expression and smiled. "I did not bring too much silver taels this time. How about this? I will return to Sky Origin sect first. Tomorrow, I will send the money that Steward Lin needs." "No problem." Lin Wanyu nodded. He did not doubt the authenticity of Su Yuanming's words. After all, Su Yuanming was an inner sect elder of Sky Origin sect. Sky Origin sect was one of the top sects in Beiyun Mansion. If it was any other small sect, Lin Wanyu would not have believed them so easily and would not have simply asked for a 20% deposit. After all, it was impossible to believe that a small sect could take out 10 billion silver taels. Subsequently, Su Yuanming stood up and bid farewell. On the other side, Lin Wanyu immediately began to gather the materials that Sky Origin sect needed. It was not an easy task to gather the materials needed to build 5 cities. Even with the Qingyun Trading Company's large business, they still needed a certain amount of time to gather the materials. The next day, Su Yuanming personally delivered the silver taels. In the next few days, the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain's Qingyun Trading Company abandoned all other businesses and focused all their efforts on gathering the materials that Sky Origin sect needed. In these few days, the smile on Lin Wanyu's face did not diminish at all. Everyone that he met was smiling happily. Those who did not know would think that he had made a fortune. However, to Lin Wanyu, he had really made a fortune this time. 10 billion silver taels. Even if it was only 1% or 2%, it would still be a few 100 million silver taels. I am now in the first level of the spiritual martial realm. If I can get this amount of silver taels and exchange them for resources, I can at least break through to the airborne realm. Lin Wanyu was already thinking about what he should do after he got the money. The most important thing for a cultivator was strength. After becoming the chief manager, Lin Wanyu had also received a lot of resources from the trading company. That was why he could easily step into the spiritual martial realm. However, if he wanted to go further, he would need to work hard. Now, with this deal, Lin Wanyu felt that he should be able to break through to the airborne realm. In addition, the trading company would definitely reward him for completing such a large order. With the combination of the two, Lin Wanyu was confident that he could step into the 7th level of the spiritual martial realm. Once he reached the spiritual martial realm, he would have a certain amount of authority in the entire Qingyun Trading Company, and could be considered to be in the upper echelons. To this, Lin Wanyu had always been thinking about it. Now that he finally had the chance, he would definitely not let it go. 12 billion! Qin Shujian had already expected Lin Wanyo's price. The last time he built Liangshan City, Yuanzhong was still very poor. Therefore, the materials used to build the city were very ordinary. Even with his skills as a grandmaster blacksmith, he could only forge Liangshan City into a low-grade spiritual artifact. However, it was different this time. Yuanzhong had destroyed a top sect. Qin Shujian was also pulling wool from everywhere. With the Yuan cabinet as a money-making machine, it would not be an exaggeration to say that Yuanzhong was filthy rich now. If I'm going to do it, I'll do it to the best of my ability. This was Qin Shujian's current thought. He had already planned to refine all of the cities in the various branches into high-grade spiritual artifacts. If not for the lack of innate embryos, Qin Shujian would have been able to forge all the cities into Dao artifacts. As for injecting luck, he had never thought of taking such a shortcut. More than 10 billion taels of silver was already enough to empty out a top sect. However, it was still within the range that Yuanzhong could afford. At most. In the future, he would be a little more frugal. Moreover, he now had the support of Tiangang's sect and Giant Spirit sect, so it was not a big problem. Subsequently, Qin Shujian got up and left the courtyard, arriving at the sect's treasury. After showing his identity token, the door of the treasury opened. Qin Shujian stepped inside and saw a vast space. A mustard seed containing a Mount Sumeru. This was a method that he imitated the Heavenly Corpse sect's library, and simply made one in the treasury. The treasury was divided into a total of 3 spaces. One space was for spiritual herbs, one for various materials, and one for gold, silver, and jewelry. Yes. Qin Shujian put all the gold, silver, and jewelry into the treasury. This was because the amount was not small. If he did not put it in the treasury and lost it one day, he felt that he would cry. First, he went to the silver taels treasury. The silver taels that had been piled up in half of the space were now only 1/10 of it. Seeing this, Qin Shujian felt pain in his heart. However, he quickly comforted himself. If the old doesn't go, the new won't come. It's just some silver taels. As a heavenly human and the sect master of a top sect, I must have the spirit of an expert. He comforted himself a few times in his heart. Qin Shujian reluctantly took a breath and decided not to look at the silver taels treasury. Instead, he stepped into the material treasury. Similar to the silver taels treasury, the material treasury was also very rare. This was because the materials that could be sent into the treasury were all high-level materials or precious treasures. Looking at the materials that were at least 8th or 9th level, Qin Shujian fell into deep thought. If he wanted to reforge Cold Mountain City, he had to at least improve the foundation of Cold Mountain City. If a lower-level spiritual artifact was merged with an innate embryo, then even if it was a refined Dao artifact, it would not be a powerful one. Since he was going to do it, then he had to do it well. However, Qin Shujian looked at the materials in front of him and sighed. Although there are many materials now, it is still not enough to merge into Cold Mountain City. No, it is really not enough. Soon, Qin Shujian overturned his own opinion. How many materials were needed to reforge a city? Indeed, a normal city would require a lot of materials. However, if it was to refine a Dao artifact, then it might not be necessary. Qin Shujian realized that he had fallen into a wrong line of thought. Now that his thoughts were clear, the bitter expression on his face disappeared. Year 6787 of the Qian dynasty, the first day of the 10th month. The Yuan sect opened its gates and recruited disciples from all over the world. On this day, the teleportation gate of Cold Mountain City did not stop. People walked out from it one after another and headed towards Cold Mountain. Apart from that, there were also experts who flew through the air and brought their juniors to Cold Mountain City. On this day, many elders of the Yuan sect came out to deal with the matter of recruiting disciples. Niu Feng looked at the experts gathered in front of him. There were hundreds of divine martial realm experts. When their auras gathered together, even if they did not deliberately release it, it was still enough to make one's heart tremble. Therefore, he felt a great deal of pressure. To put it bluntly, Niu Feng was only a great cultivator at the peak of the vision divine stage. Moreover, he was very weak. Facing so many divine martial realm experts, it would be a lie to say that he did not feel pressure. However, looking at the crowd in front of him, Niu Feng put his hands behind his back and secretly crushed a jade talisman. Immediately after, a vast aura exploded from his body and instantly swept across the entire place. It pressured the great cultivators of the divine martial realm to the point that their expressions changed. Celestial pressure. This was the method that Qin Shujian gave Niu Feng. After using it, one would gain the celestial pressure. Of course, other than pressure, this had no other use. Therefore, this jade talisman only had one use. Short name, pretentious. Seeing the crowd's reaction, Niu Feng nodded in satisfaction and said loudly, "Today, the Yuan sect is opening its gates and recruiting disciples from all over the world. I am very gratified that all of you are able to come. However, the sect has its own rules. The people recruited this time cannot be older than 16 years old and must have a suitable foundation to join the sect. If you are an otherworldly person, you must be at least at the 7th level of the true martial realm and complete the corresponding tests before you can join the sect. If you do not meet these two conditions, you can go back now." After that, there was no change in the scene. The conditions for the Yuan sect to recruit disciples had been spread out. Those who came now basically thought that they met the conditions. Niu Feng did not say more about this. It didn't matter if these people really met the requirements, or if they just wanted to fish in troubled waters. Because there were still tests later. Even if they wanted to fish in troubled waters, they would be screened out. If they really broke through layers of tests and successfully mixed in, it would be because they were capable. Qin Shujian didn't refuse any of these capable people, even if they were slightly less talented or older. People with brains. It did not matter if they were not talented. A marrow cleansing elixir could make them become cultivation geniuses. What they were afraid of was that it did not matter if they were not talented or not smart. Such a person was truly terrifying. If they were in danger, it did not matter if they died. They could drag their teammates down with them. Hearing Niu Feng's words, the group of cultivators who came with their juniors did not say much. They just let their juniors participate in the test. The whole process. There was no disturbance at all. No one wanted to make trouble. Seeing this, Niu Feng also felt a little bored. In this regard, some people were also speechless in their hearts. Although the expression on Niu Feng's face was not very obvious, some sharp-eyed people could see it. They looked at the black-robed man standing next to Niu Feng. Those great cultivators of the god martial arts realm were all terrified. Heavenly Corpse Jiang Feng! A divine-level slaughtering beast was standing there. At this time, no one dared to be presumptuous. Whoever dared to be presumptuous and provoke Jiang Feng to attack would be dead. Not only that, they would also offend the Yuan sect. Maybe the forces behind them would also suffer. So, from the beginning to the end, no one thought of making trouble. Even if they wanted to die, they had to consider whether they would implicate their own people. Just as the Yuan sect opened the mountain gate, Qin Shujian had quietly left the Yuan sect and came to the Heavenly Lineages station in the Tsengxi region. Sect Master. Seeing Qin Shujian's arrival, Zheng Hong greeted him respectfully. After witnessing Qin Shujian's inhuman strength, the reverence in the Heaven Branch Master's heart grew stronger by the day. It didn't matter that the other party was a heavenly being. Before seeing the means of a heavenly being, even if there was awe in his heart, it would not be too strong. But after seeing the scene of Qin Shujian lifting mountains, no one dared to look down on him. That scene? It was really too shocking. At this time, Qin Shujian did not look at Zheng Hong, but his eyes fell on the city that was being built. "How's the progress of the city?" "It will be completed in a day or two," Zheng Hong said. What he said was not really completed. He could only build the outline of a city. Qin Shujian said, "Hurry up. It's best to finish this before tomorrow." The main sect has now begun to recruit disciples. Soon, there will be disciples assigned to the heavenly lineage. If there are too many disciples and there is no place to settle down, it will be a joke. Zhenghong said. Don't worry, sect master. When the golden crow rises tomorrow, the city will be built. Well, go ahead. Qin Shujian waved his hand, indicating that Zhenghong did not need to follow him. Zhenghong did not leave immediately, but asked, Sect master, why don't you come with me to the heavenly lineage to rest first? When the city is built tomorrow, we can come back to check it out. No need. I'll stay here. Qin Shujian shook his head and refused. Hearing this, Zhenghong could not force anything. With Qin Shujian's personal supervision and a strict order, Zhenghong immediately transferred all the manpower to complete the outline of the city as quickly as possible. The fifth-level cultivator material used to build the city was called gold rock. To cut it into a suitable shape, it required a strong cultivator in the spiritual martial realm with a powerful spiritual weapon. Fortunately, Yuan sect now lacked great cultivators in the divine martial realm, but they did not lack cultivators in the spiritual martial realm. Qin Shujian gave them one day. However, under the premise that Zhenghong personally went to work, the outline of the city was built in the middle of the night. The city built by the heavenly lineage was not big, about the same size as Cold Mountain City, covering an area of about 50 miles. However, the purpose of this city was mainly to settle the disciples, so it did not need to be too big. After the construction was completed, Zhenghong walked in front of Qin Shujian and said, Sect master, the city has been built. Ask everyone to evacuate. Don't come within 100 feet of the city. Yes. Zhenghong nodded and then turned to give the order. Soon, all of the craftsman's disciples left the city in an orderly manner. The city, which had been quite lively, immediately turned into a desolate city of death. Coupled with the dim night, it was a bit eerie. After everyone had evacuated, Qin Shujian's body suddenly grew to a size of 30,000 feet. Then, with his divine thought, thousands of array patterns appeared from the void and attached to the city. Buzz! The entire city was shaking. Then, Qin Shujian stomped his foot forward and the earth shook violently. The city, which originally covered an area of 50 miles, directly broke away from the ground and flew into the air. At this moment, the people who had already retreated were shaken to the point that they lost their balance and fell to the ground. Fortunately, Qin Shujian deliberately controlled his power and did not let the vibration spread too much. Otherwise, the power of the stomp alone would have killed a large number of basic realm cultivators. Under everyone's horrified gaze, they saw the city flying into the air. The city, which should have collapsed, was firmly formed as a whole under the protection of the array patterns. Immediately, Qin Shujian activated his true essence, and the void immediately turned into a vast sea of fire, enveloping the entire city. The sea of fire burned. The city shook crazily. A portion of the runes that were attached to every inch of the city crumbled under the burning of the flames, while a portion of them slowly merged into the city. An hour passed. The entire city was burning red. Qin Shujian had been controlling the temperature, allowing the pure gold rock to reach a critical point between melting and not melting. In the next moment, his boundless divine sense transformed into a gigantic hammer and smashed down on the city. Boom! As the hammer fell, heaven and earth shook. A myriad of Taoist runes erupted as the hammer fell, and the trembling of the entire city came to an abrupt halt. As for the others, when they heard the sound of the hammer, they felt a force cleansing their body and mind. Some of them even looked inexplicable, as if they had comprehended something. Zhenghong shouted, Everyone guard your mind. This is a rare opportunity. How much you can comprehend depends on you. Without Zhenghong saying anything, the knowledgeable disciples all calmed their minds and silently digested everything that Qin Shujian had given them. At this moment, another hammer fell. The dark clouds in the sky retreated, as if there was light dispersing the darkness. Boom! Chapter 526. Casting a City. After casting a city spirit weapon in Cold Mountain City back then, Qin Shujian cast the city again today. For a moment, everyone was shocked. Qin Shujian didn't pay much attention to this at all. Instead, he focused all his attention on the city in front of him. His divine consciousness turned into a hammer and constantly hammered the city. It was different from when he cast Cold Mountain City. Today's him. Whether it was casting techniques or cultivation realm, he was a lot stronger than before. Although he was now casting an upper-grade spirit weapon, a lower-grade spirit weapon couldn't compare to it. But with the strength of a diviner, and the skills of a Grand Master forging after the second transformation, casting an upper-grade spirit weapon was just a casual matter. The real problem was, what was being forged was not an ordinary spiritual artifact, but a spiritual artifact forged from an entire city. However, no matter how difficult it was, Qin Shujian didn't think it was a big problem. Bang! The divine consciousness hammer collided with the city, making a deafening sound. At this moment, some experts who were accompanying the younger disciples to attend the Yuan sect Mountain Gate ceremony were also alarmed by the impact of Qin Shujian's casting and couldn't help but come over to observe. "This is casting a city!" An old man with a goatee saw the 3,000 feet tall body and the city that was burning in the sea of fire in the air, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He was also a strong forging master. He also had personal opinions on some casting techniques. But this was the first time the old man had seen a city cast in his life. When Cold Mountain City was cast in the past, he didn't have the chance to observe. When he learned about it later, he regretted it and beat his chest. He didn't expect that accompanying the younger disciples this time would give him the opportunity to observe Qin Shujian casting a city. To this, the old man was also very excited. If he could see an expert casting a city with his own eyes, he might have a chance to break through to the forging master realm. This was even more important than having their younger generation disciples enter the Yuan sect. Another hammer fell. The world was clear. Some experts were puzzled. After looking away, they happened to see the old man with a goatee and couldn't help but ask, "I didn't expect Old Masters to also come. Old Masters is proficient in forging, can he see some clues?" After saying that, the others also turned their gazes to the old man. Old Masters to be able to receive the title of a god martial arts realm cultivator, it was obviously impossible for him to be a nobody. Surnames Moreover, he was proficient in the art of forging. This range had been greatly reduced. Soon after, someone reacted and said in shock, "Could it be that you're the South Wind Mansion's clan's grand elders, Zhao?" After saying that, he also realized his slip of the tongue. He hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "It was a slip of the tongue. I hope elders won't take offense." "Haha, you're being too serious." The old man with the goatee, also known as Zhao, stroked his beard and smiled. Hearing this, the expressions of the others also changed slightly. Clearly, the other party had admitted to it. Zhao. In the world of cultivation, this name was not small at all. The Zhao family was one of the top families in the South Wind Mansion. Although they were not as powerful as the top sects, they were not weak at all. Zhao was a late-stage divine martial expert, and a high-grade blacksmith himself. Of course, compared to Zhao's strength, his status as a high-grade blacksmith was negligible. But seriously speaking, the Zhao family was also a famous blacksmith family. It was rumored that they had produced a Grandmaster blacksmith, but that was a long time ago. Since the last Grandmaster blacksmith passed away, the Zhao family's blacksmithing skills had gradually declined. Fortunately, although the Zhao family's blacksmithing skills had declined, the overall strength of the Zhao family was not bad. They had several great cultivators in the divine martial realm, and their strength was also very strong. However, Zhao was obsessed with the Tao of blacksmithing and wanted to restore the past glory. Or else, with Zhao's talent, he would not be as simple as a late-stage divine martial expert. He would have broken through to the peak divine martial expert long ago. But no matter what, in terms of fame, Zhao was not small at all in the cultivation world. After a simple modesty, Zhujiao also looked at Qin Shujian and the city that was being refined. He said, "If this old man is not wrong, Sect Master Qin is using his divine sense to turn into a hammer to temper the entire city from the foundation. And every time the hammer falls, his divine sense will turn into countless small hammers and pound the city at the same time. It's just that the intensity of the tempering is the same, so to you, there is not much difference." After that, Zhujiao did not say anything else and then focused his attention on the city that Qin Shujian was hammering. Hearing this, the others were also puzzled. Some great cultivators in the divine martial realm spread out their divine sense, wanting to see what was going on. However, before their divine sense could completely touch the city, it was smashed and destroyed as the divine sense hammer fell. Ah! Several great cultivators in the divine martial realm screamed and coughed up blood, instantly entering a state of serious injury. The sudden change caused the others' expressions to change greatly. Zhenghang's eyes were cold as he warned, "You can watch, but don't do anything without permission. If you cause the sect master to fail, the Yuan sect will not rest until one of you is dead." Although he was only a cultivator in the spiritual martial realm, he was not afraid of threatening these great cultivators in the divine martial realm. So what if they were in the divine martial realm? There were dozens of divine martial realm cultivators who had died in the hands of the Yuan sect. They had really offended Qin Shujian. Even if a top sect came forward, it would be useless. They were warned. The injured cultivators hurriedly said, "Please don't take offense, Elder Xing." "Humph!" Zhenghong snorted coldly but did not say anything else. At this moment, the others did not dare to spread out their divine sense to investigate. The few cultivators who had attacked earlier were all famous experts, but they had all been silently injured. At this moment, Qin Shujian turned a deaf ear to them as the divine sense hammer fell in an orderly manner, constantly hammering the city. Every time the hammer fell, runes were born from the void and then merged into the city. In the sky, black clouds gathered. Lightning flashed back and forth in the black clouds. Zhujiao said, "It's condensing the lightning tribulation. It seems that this spiritual weapon is about to reach the stage of success." While speaking, he did not relax his attention for a moment. Every time the divine sense hammer fell, Zhujiao felt that the hammer was not only tempering the city, but also hitting his divine soul. He was at the peak of the superior grade forging master level and was only one step away from becoming a forging master. Now as time passed, Zhujiao found that the shackles that were blocking his breakthrough were slowly opening. Could it be that this is really my opportunity? My Zhou family has finally given birth to a forging master after hundreds of years. Zhujiao was so excited that he couldn't take his eyes off Qin Shujian's forging. His mind was also immersed in the process. This was an opportunity. A very rare opportunity. If he did not seize it, it might take him a few decades to break through to the forging master level. Crack, lightning fell, the heavenly might was vast and mighty. But the cultivators who came to watch did not change their expressions. Although the lightning tribulation of a spiritual weapon was powerful, in the eyes of a great cultivator of the god martial realm, it was nothing. The first lightning fell. Qin Shujian did not stop and was still hammering the city with his divine sense. When the lightning passed through the divine sense hammer, it did not shake his divine sense in the slightest. Boom! The city trembled. With the bombardment of the lightning, the red city had a faint purple color. Bang! Another hammer fell. The purple color on the city dissipated and gradually merged into the city. When the first lightning merged, a faint aura was emitted from the city. Crack! The second lightning bolt struck once again. Qin Shujian hammered again. Bang! Since the lightning tribulation condensed, the frequency of his hammering had slowed down. Every time a bolt of lightning struck down, the hammer would strike down at the same time, fusing the power of the lightning with the city. Soon an hour passed. The burning sea of fire had already retreated, and in its place was a floating city. A vast aura was being emitted from the city. When they sensed this vast aura, many people's expressions changed. Judging by the aura, I'm afraid it's not just a spiritual weapon. Some people even believe that it's a doctrine weapon. Many people whispered to each other as they looked at the floating city. Their expressions changed again and again. If it were not for the fact that there was no doctrine seal on the city and the lightning tribulation was not so powerful, they would have suspected that Qin Shujian was not forging a spiritual weapon, but a doctrine weapon. It was because the aura was too powerful. A cultivator sighed and said, "This is a qualitative change caused by a quantitative change. It's also a spiritual weapon, but a spiritual weapon the size of a city is not comparable to those ordinary spiritual weapons. If I'm not mistaken, once this spiritual weapon is formed, it will be comparable to a doctrine weapon." Hearing that, some people's expressions changed slightly again. Comparable to a doctrine weapon. This wasn't a simple matter. Doctrine weapons were rare, and only innate spiritual objects had the capital to advance to a doctrine weapon. However, how many innate spiritual objects could there be? Every time an area was born, some innate spiritual objects would be born. However, these innate spiritual objects would need at least thousands or tens of thousands of years to grow to the level of a doctrine weapon. Moreover, during this process, they had to ensure that the innate spiritual objects would not be damaged under various factors. As a result, doctrine weapons were very rare, especially high-grade ones. Almost all the high-grade doctrine weapons left in the world were left behind tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. If a spiritual weapon could be tempered to the level of a doctrine weapon, then such a blacksmith would be famous in the world and even qualified to be called the best. But soon, these people were relieved again. Called the best? Ever since Qin Shujian started to forge doctrine weapons, he probably had the title of the best blacksmith. After all, no one in the world was qualified to forge doctrine weapons. The heavenly lightning kept falling. It was not until the east vomited white that the tribulation clouds dissipated. At this time, the city was already emitting a terrifying aura. Qin Shujian shouted, "Zhenghong, drip blood and recognize me as your master." Zhenghong was stunned at first, but he immediately reacted. Without any hesitation, he cut his palm and threw a pool of blood over. The blood fell into the city and quickly seeped in. At the same time, a faintly discernible connection was born between the two. At this time, Qin Shujian's body returned to its normal size, and the city fell to the ground as if it had lost its support. Rumble! The earth shook, but there was no dust or smoke. Because any dust or smoke was suppressed by the aura of the city. Qin Shujian said, "This city will be called Heaven City from now on, and it is the base of the heavenly veins. Although it is only an upper-grade spiritual weapon due to the limitations of the material, with your strength in Heaven City, if the opponent does not have a powerful doctrine weapon, you can suppress him even if he is at the peak of the divine martial realm. Thank you for the treasure, sect leader." Zhenghong was very excited. He only wanted to curse in his heart because Zhenghong really did not expect Qin Shujian to give him such a precious treasure. Now, after dripping blood to recognize him as its master. Although Zhenghong did not activate Heaven City, he could sense the power of the city. With his strength at the peak of the spiritual martial realm, it was not impossible to suppress someone at the peak of the divine martial realm. Hearing this, the others also had complicated expressions. Zhenghong's strength could not be hidden from these people. He was only at the spiritual martial realm. Even if he was at the peak of the spiritual martial realm, he was only at the spiritual martial realm. In front of the divine martial realm, he could not do anything. However, looking at Heaven City in front of them, no one wanted to refute Qin Shujian's words. Although it was an upper-grade spiritual weapon, its power was comparable to a doctrine weapon. Moreover, the weight of the city itself was comparable to a mountain. With such a powerful force, even someone at the peak of the divine martial realm would have to kneel down. Looking at Heaven City, the others suddenly had the same thought. Perhaps, this was a real spiritual weapon. With it, one could suppress an enemy who was a whole realm higher. Qin Shujian glanced at the other people who were watching. His gaze lingered on Zhuo Zhao for a while, and then he looked away. He could see it. Zhuo Zhao had already gained some benefits from the method of forging spiritual weapons this time. Regarding this, Qin Shujian did not care too much. If there was a gain, there would be a gain. It would be better if he could break through on the spot, and he could also recruit more blacksmiths. As for whether Zhuo Zhao would be a threat to him after breaking through, Qin Shujian did not even think about it. You can all observe, but do not act rashly. If there is a next time, don't blame me for being ruthless. Qin Shujian put his hands behind his back, said lightly, and flew away. On the spot, the injured cultivators were shivering all over. It was obvious that Qin Shujian's words were meant for them, and it was also a warning. No one doubted whether Qin Shujian's words were true or false. After all, since the establishment of Yuan sect, any forces that went against them either obediently bowed their heads and apologized, or were destroyed. When it came to being ruthless, Qin Shujian was also very famous in the cultivation world. Everyone, the sect master's words are also the will of Yuan sect. Do not harm yourselves or others, Xinghong said with a cold smile. Now that he was in charge of Heaven City, he was full of confidence. If possible, Xinghong hoped that a few reckless people would jump out and let him use Heaven City to suppress them. However, he found it a pity. No one jumped out to oppose. After Qin Shujian left, these people also cupped their hands at Xinghong and turned to leave. Cupped hands. That was because of the other party's identity as the leader of the Heaven faction. As for a cultivator of the spirit martial realm, how could they really be afraid? They couldn't beat him. Could they not outrun him? Everyone could tell what Xinghong was thinking, but no one wanted to argue with him. Xinghong was very regretful about this. However, after feeling regretful, a sense of pride rose from the bottom of his heart as he looked at Heaven City in front of him. From today onwards, he was not only the leader of the Heaven faction, but also the city lord of Heaven City. In Heaven City, unless a heavenly being came personally, Xinghong was not afraid of anyone. On the other side, Qin Shujian had already taken to the air and left. There was no other way. Yuan sect had a total of 5 branches. In his heart, the demon faction only existed in name. 5 branches represented 5 cities. Now that the city of the Heaven faction was settled, Qin Shujian still had to rush to the other 4 branches to build the cities. Now, the recruitment of disciples had already begun. 100,000 disciples. That was Qin Shujian's minimum estimate. With so many disciples, it would take at least 3 to 5 days to go through a process. If it was slow, it could even take 8 to 10 days. This would continue for a period of time. It would be enough for him to build the cities. Sigh, they are all born to work. They are all useless people. In the air, Qin Shujian sighed again. If not for the fact that there was no useful blacksmith in Yuan sect, he would not have to do it himself. Unfortunately, it was not easy to recruit suitable blacksmiths. It was still okay to recruit upper-grade blacksmiths, but once they broke through to the master level, it would not be so easy. Right, there are still alchemists. Array masters are not urgent now, but alchemy and blacksmiths must be put on the agenda. When I go back, I will think of a way to improve the strength of those people. If it still doesn't work, I can only be thick-skinned and recruit people. Qin Shujian was helpless. He thought of his methods that had already surpassed that of an ordinary alchemy grandmaster. He was prepared to invite all the alchemists in the world to come and observe when all the work was done. At that time, he could take the opportunity to recruit a few people. Yuan sect was now big and had a big business. No matter how powerful Xingyuhua was, she could not support too much. Moreover, all the branches were separated. Each branch had to have at least 3 people in alchemy, blacksmiths, and array masters. The latter was not necessary. But the first 2 were definitely necessary. After thinking about it, Qin Shujian realized that every time he solved a problem, there would be more problems waiting for him. At the same time, the news of his sect master forging spirit weapons had also spread to the sect. In the casting hall, Xinyu was about to go crazy. Qin Shujian did not let him observe when he was forging weapons. If this news had not spread and the aura was too vast, he would not have known at all. Originally, Xin Yuqing had already planned to observe. However, the recruitment of disciples was too complicated. Yuan sect did not have enough manpower, and could only recruit people from the casting hall. At this moment, after calming down a little, Xin Yuqing immediately left the others and left. Out of the 5 branches, only one has been completed. There must be 4 more branches to complete. In the past, my realm was not high enough. Even if I observed the casting of the city with my own eyes, I did not gain much. Now that I have broken through to upper-grade blacksmith and stabilized this realm, I will definitely gain some benefits if I observe again. Xin Yuqing's eyes were firm. If he could take this opportunity to become a master blacksmith, even if the ancestors of the Pill Cauldron clan died, they could rest in peace. Although Xin Yuqing had joined Yuan sect, he had never forgotten that he was once a member of the Pill Cauldron clan. If he broke through to become a master, he could be considered to have reached the peak of the Pill Cauldron clan. After Xin Yuqing left, some people in the casting hall took the opportunity to stay. It was rare to see Qin Shujian forge weapons. How could these people give up this great opportunity? Rumble! Thunder clouds covered the sky and lightning constantly fell. The construction of each city would take about a day. Therefore, in the next 4 days, lightning could be seen everywhere in the Liang Mountain spirit domain. The vast heavenly might could not be blocked at all. In addition to the vast heavenly might, Qin Shujian's 3,000 feet tall body shocked everyone. 3,000 feet tall. Every time they saw it, they would inevitably be shocked. After a long time, the lightning dissipated. In its place, the 5 branches each had an additional city. As branch masters, they were like Senghong, dripping blood on the city to make it their master. With the help of the city's spiritual weapons, Yuan sect had 5 more peak divine martial realm experts. What a pity! The price to pay for these peak divine martial realm experts is too high. Qin Shujian shook his head and felt heartache. The materials for the 5 cities cost a total of 21 billion taels of silver. It was 9 billion more than the original estimate of 12 billion taels of silver. Such a large amount of silver directly used up all of Yuan sect's cash. But even so, it was far from enough. For this, Yuan sect also contributed a lot of materials. Through friendly negotiations, they also borrowed some money from the Big Dipper clan and the Giant Spirit clan. Not only that, Qin Shujian also asked for less spirit stones to repay the debt of the Celestial Array sect and the Traceless sect. Instead, he asked for some silver and materials to completely fill the hole. After the cities were successfully forged, 80% of Yuan sect's foundation was instantly emptied. Every time Qin Shujian thought about it, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Such peak divine martial realm experts were good, but it was too expensive. With Yuan sect's foundation, they could not support many of them. As for the other sects, it was even more difficult to have one. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian's heart ached as he said, "Sure enough, there are no shortcuts in cultivation. Any shortcut requires money." Heartache was heartache. Fortunately, out of sight, out of mind, he directly returned to Mount Liang. Almost 5 or 6 days later, the disciple recruitment was coming to an end. In the courtyard, the two sat opposite each other. Qin Shujian said, "How's the disciple recruitment now?" "It's almost done." "How many disciples do you have now?" "About 130,000. Xing Fang thought for a moment, and gave an answer. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. 130,000 disciples was about the same as he had expected. With such a batch of new blood, it was enough for Yuan sect to develop. Qin Shujian said, "Among the 130,000 disciples, how many are mutants and how many are local people?" Zheng Fang said faintly, "Sect Master, you may have misunderstood. The 130,000 disciples are all local people. If you include the mutants, there are 210,000 disciples." "So many?" Qin Shujian was shocked. In other words, 130,000 local disciples and an additional 80,000 players added up to a total of 210,000 people. This number of people surprised him. Zheng Fang said faintly, "Sect Master, you have underestimated the reputation of our sect. There are too many humans in the world. Even after screening, there are still so many disciples coming. If it weren't for the fact that many people can't afford to take the teleportation array, I'm afraid this number would be several times higher." Chapter 527. Teleportation arrays were very expensive. At the very least, it was not something that ordinary people could afford. However, the Liang Mountain Spirit region was very remote. After all, it was originally an ordinary region, so how could it not be remote? The Great Zhao dynasty was very vast. There were millions of humans. With so many humans, even if one genius was born out of every 100 people, the number of geniuses was enough to make one's scalp go numb. Even if Yuan Zhong's requirements were higher and reached the level of 1 in 1,000, or even 1 in 10,000, the number was still not small. There were many geniuses in the human race. However, there were only a few top sections. These sects would not open their doors for several years, and each time they opened their doors, they would only accept a few disciples. Therefore, many people who wanted to join the top sects could only look on and sigh. Who knew that a rash person like Yuan Zhong would appear at this time? They would not reject anyone who came, and they would accept as many as they could. Therefore, the number of disciples would naturally be frighteningly high. This was also because Xing Fang saw that there were too many people and privately raised the requirements. However, even so, the number of disciples did not decrease. After a short moment of shock, Qin Shijian quickly recovered and smiled. 210,000 disciples is also good. With my sect's current strength, I can nurture so many people. Moreover, it was not certain who would be nurturing who. After half a year, the outer sect disciples would be able to harvest wool. With so many disciples, how much wool would they be able to harvest each time? As long as they could endure for half a year, the rest would be earned. Many people joined the sect for Yuan Zhong's name. Once they put on Yuan Zhong's skin, they would be able to walk freely in the cultivation world. As for the sense of belonging, Qin Shijian was not afraid. Outer sect disciples did not need to develop any sense of belonging. To put it bluntly, those people were just servants in disguise. Only after they became inner sect disciples would they be considered one of them. At that time, it would not be too late to slowly develop a sense of belonging. As for the 80,000 players among these people, that would be even better. The locals needed to be nurtured. The players were cannon fodder. As long as they were given some benefits, they would be used to charge and break through enemy lines in the future as a suicide squad. Qin Shijian was already thinking about it. If there were so many disciples, how much life source could he obtain in a day? Back then, when there were 20,000 disciples, there were 2 to 3 million disciples in a day, and 5 to 6 million at peak times. Now, there were 210,000 disciples. Even though most of these people's cultivation bases were still low, and the amount of life force they could contribute would not be too high, with such a huge base, it was still extremely impressive. Not to mention, among these people, there were 80,000 physical invulnerability realm players and above. Qin Shijian calculated carefully. In that case, he would have at least 30 million life force sources in a day. Later, as the cultivation of these disciples gradually increased, the 30 million life sources would be fixed at 50 million to 80 million. If all of them reached the 7th level of the martial realm, it would not be a problem for them to reach 100 million. Hundreds of millions a day. That was more than 30 billion in a year. Qin Shijian silently estimated how much life source he would need to raise the origin returning ancestral canon to its peak. Soon, a smile appeared on his face. If it were in the past, it would take at least a dozen years to go from the first level of the heaven-human realm to the second level of the heaven-human realm. But judging from the current situation, it would take him more than a year to accumulate enough life source to break through the second level of the heaven-human realm. To break through to the third level of the heaven-human realm, It would only take him 2 to 3 years. Qin Shujian did not plan to rely on life source to break through to the second level of the heaven-human realm. Because to break through to the second level of the heaven-human realm, he only needed to open 512 star acupoints. 72 star acupoints to the first level of the heaven-human realm. 365 star acupoints to the peak of the first level of the heaven-human realm. 512 star acupoints to the second level of the heaven-human realm. 720 star acupoints to the peak of the second level of the heaven-human realm. Now Qin Shujian. He was only 12 star acupoints away from the second level of the heaven-human realm. It was just a step away. At this time, there was no need to waste life source to break through. Xingfang was not clear about Qin Shujian's thoughts. He just reported the data as it was. If the sect master felt that there was no problem, then there was no problem with him. Qin Shujian said, "Now that the 5 branches have successfully established a city, 210,000 people will be distributed to each branch. Each branch only has 40,000 people, so it can accommodate them. Now it's not a problem of accommodation, but to guide so many disciples, I'm afraid we'll need a lot of manpower. There's no problem with manpower. Each branch has already nurtured a lot of people. If there's not enough, we can transfer some from the main sect. Some inter-sect disciples or elite disciples can take on the responsibility of teachers. At most, we'll just give them some contribution points," Qin Shujian said calmly. Yuan sect had 20,000 people to begin with. Now, even if 30 to 40% of the 20,000 people were to be transferred, it would be enough to guide the newcomers. If it was a unified teaching, there would be no need for so many people. Hearing that, Xingfang did not object. Indeed, he had fallen into the wrong mindset, thinking that only the deacon elders were qualified to guide the disciples. But now, there were many disciples in the true martial realm in Yuan sect. Were these people enough to guide the newcomers? Xingfang already had an answer in his heart. It was definitely enough. True martial realm. In the true dominion, they could be considered the sect master of a region. In the ordinary realm, they could be considered the top experts. How difficult would it be to guide the disciples who had not even started cultivating? Xingfang said, "If we issue a mission and ask the disciples to guide the disciples, it won't be a big problem. However, some people have some skills and some foundations. These people will need the deacon elders to help them. These are all small problems. You can make the decision, Grand Elder." Qin Shujian waved his hand, not wanting to care so much. He was very tired now. It would be a lie to say that he had not used up any energy after establishing the 5 cities. "Then leave everything to me," Xingfang said helplessly. He had no choice if Qin Shujian wanted to be a hands-off boss. However, Xingfang did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. After all, he was the sect master of a top-notch sect. How could he do everything by himself? Not only would this lower his status, but it would also make the rest of the people in the Yuan sect look like trash. Just as Xingfang was about to stand up, Qin Shujian stopped him. "After all the disciples have been confirmed, there is no rush to assign them. I need to take a look." "All right." After Xingfang left, Qin Shujian was still sitting there, sipping his tea. In the martial arts practice field of the Yuan sect, a large number of new disciples stood in rows in an orderly manner. Among them, the mutants and the natives were divided into 2 different camps. Among the natives, there were teenagers and children of 7 or 8 years old. These people were not older than 16 years old. However, very few of them were really stuck at 16 years old. Most of them were slightly younger. These people were looking around secretly, as if they were very curious about everything around them. Nobody knew. At this moment, he was standing here to do something. On the side of the players, they were all silent. As players, they were very clear about how vicious the master of Mount Leon was. If they made a mistake at this time, they might be caught and beheaded by him. A breeze blew past. It instantly dispersed some of the heat under the scorching sun. A man in a green robe had appeared on the high platform without anyone noticing. When the young man appeared, all the disciples and elders of the Yuan sect bowed. "Greetings, sect master! No need for formalities," Qin Shujian said lightly. Then, he looked down at the new disciples with his hands behind his back. Regarding this, many disciples also raised their heads secretly, trying to sneak a peek at this sect master's appearance. As for Qin Shujian, among the people present, not all of them had heard of his name, but at least 95% of them knew about him. The sect master of the Yuan sect, Qin Shujian, was a famous diviner cultivator. He even vaguely had the title of number one in the great Jiao cultivation world. Quite a number of people entered the Yuan sect because of Qin Shujian's name. Now that they saw him in person, these people were very excited and even a little nervous. Qin Shujian did not care about what others were thinking. When he looked at the disciples, he said, "How many people are gathered here?" "A total of 20,000 disciples," an elder replied. The martial arts arena was not big. It could only accommodate 20,000 people at a time. Hearing this, Qin Shujian did not waste any more time. He activated his Dharma eye. Everyone's attributes, even their luck, were exposed to his sight. Personal luck. Purple was supreme. Black was disaster. Ordinary people's luck was mostly gray and white. Now, in Qin Shujian's sight, everyone's luck rose. Most of them were pure white or light red. This kind of luck could be considered not bad. To be able to join the Yuan sect and pass the selection, it proved that they were people with good fortune. However, in Qin Shujian's opinion, this kind of luck was just ordinary. It would not suddenly die, but it would also not be a great opportunity. Amidst the white and crimson light of providence, there were also some pure red luck that caught his attention. Apart from that, there were also more than 10 people who had reddish-yellow luck. It proved that these people's luck was already at its peak to a certain extent. These people, Qin Shujian secretly looked at their attributes and memorized their names. If there were no accidents, people with great luck would be the backbone of the Yuan sect in the future. Of course, it did not mean that people who did not have enough luck would not be successful in their lives. It just meant that if they wanted to go further, it would be more difficult than others. Luck was innate. However, it could also change the day after. As for the players, Qin Shujian did not look at their luck because he could not see through it. For some reason, his Dharma eye could not see the luck of the players. In Qin Shujian's opinion, this should be because the two sides were not in the same world. However, he did not need to look at the luck of the players. What he needed to look at was the loyalty of the other party. At a glance, Qin Shujian really picked out more than 10 people and asked them to stand at the side. Then, among the native people, 2 people were also selected. The people who had been selected were all very uneasy, especially the players. Their hearts were in a mess. If they remembered correctly, in the previous few times there were players who were selected and then killed on the spot. At the thought of this, these players were even more terrified. They wanted to escape, but they were afraid that they would confess if they were not pressed. Therefore, they could only suppress the panic in their hearts and stand still on the spot. After one group of people finished looking, another group of people came. Very soon, all 210,000 people finished looking. There were many people with reddish-yellow luck and a few with light yellow luck. However, there was not a single person with rich yellow luck like Ninebo's. Qin Shujian also sighed in his heart. It is easy to find a genius, but it really depends on fate to find one with great luck. There was no lack of geniuses in the human race. What was lacking were geniuses with great luck. Right now, Yuan sect was recruiting 210,000 disciples. In the end, none of them could compare with Ninebo in terms of luck. Qin Shujian felt that luck was hard to come by. He also understood the importance of Ninebo. Subsequently, Qin Shujian let the people of the various branches finish dividing up all the disciples. In the martial arts field, there were still hundreds of people standing there trembling in fear. 36 native people. More than 400 players. Looking at these people, some of the elders and deacons of Yuan's sect were solemn. They could foresee that there would be an unavoidable massacre. Qin Shujian walked down slowly. Looking at these people, he said with a faint smile, "Tell me, who sent you here? If you are honest, I may spare your lives." I don't know what the sect master is talking about. No one sent me here." A person forced himself to calm down and said. The person who spoke was a player. Qin Shujian looked at the other party's -50 loyalty and was speechless. It was so red that it was almost shining. How could he say that he wasn't a traitor? If he wasn't a spy, then he must have a grudge against him. No matter which one it was, in Qin Shujian's eyes, it was a hidden danger. "It's fine if you don't want to talk. I won't force you." Qin Shujian shook his head. Suddenly, he pointed out a finger. His energy turned into thousands of illusions and landed on these people. In an instant, everyone's cultivation was sealed. Their bodies were confined to the ground and they couldn't move. Heavenly Cloud God's sealing finger. This divine realm martial art that had reached perfection but hadn't had any earth-shattering power. This time, it finally had its use. With the means of a heavenly being, it was as easy as flipping his hand to seal these people. After doing all this, Qin Shujian looked at Zhang Tiniu and said, "Take these people away. Ask them who is behind them. After that, you don't need me to tell you what to do. I understand." Zhang Tiniu said coldly. Sending people to infiltrate Yuan's sect was obviously up to no good. There was no need to say what should be done. Those who went against Yuan's sect naturally didn't have a good ending. As for these dozens of people, in his eyes they were just like that. Ignoring the terrified expressions of those disciples, Zhang Tiniu directly took them away. Subsequently, Qin Shujian looked at the remaining players. Then, he wrapped them with true essence and disappeared. Inside the forbidden area, all the players appeared here. The Qiankun Bao, who was silently cultivating, was shocked. "Sect Master, why did you bring so many people?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask," Qin Shujian said calmly. Hearing this, the Qiankun Bao obediently took the cloud-piercing arrow and went to a farther place to cultivate. After following Qin Shujian for so many years, the other party's tone was clearly unhappy. At this time, if they acted like this, they would be waiting to be scolded. "A Bao that can talk!" Although the players' bodies were sealed, their 5 senses didn't disappear. They were very curious about the abnormality of the Qiankun Bao. Qin Shujian looked at these players and said, "You should know who I am. My name is Qin Shujian, the Langshan camp master that you know. I don't care why you came to Yuan sect. However, since you came with evil intentions, we are all enemies." The players were speechless. It wasn't that they didn't want to speak. It was that they were completely sealed. They couldn't even speak. The Qin Shujian in front of them was clearly not in a good state. Although some of the players were panicking, they weren't too afraid. At most, they would just die once. Even if Qin Shujian killed them, it would be fine. If the other party were to seal them here, it would be a real nightmare. They couldn't move. They couldn't speak. If they wanted to starve to death, it would take a long time for these physical invulnerability cultivators to do so. This was because the spiritual energy here was too dense. At the thought of this, some of the players were in despair. The Langshan camp master wouldn't really seal them, right? If that was the case, it would be better to just kill them. This was what the players thought. However, in front of Qin Shujian, they were completely exposed. He chuckled and said, "It's not hard for me to kill you. Anyway, I have no intention of sealing you. After all, there are too many of you. It's impossible to seal you one by one. However, what I'm really curious about is, are the Inhumans really immortal?" As he spoke, a fire lotus appeared in Qin Shujian's palm. The red lotus of purgation. It was the red lotus of delusion that could completely kill demons. Qin Shujian had always wanted to find an opportunity to test if the red lotus of purgation could kill players. If it could, then the player's advantage of being immortal would be gone. However, all this time, he didn't have the time to test it. It wasn't until these players came knocking on his door that Qin Shujian remembered. After hearing his words, Qin Shujian had already felt a sense of fear from some of the players. That was true fear. Qin Shujian said. You don't have to be afraid. Maybe I don't have the means to really kill you. The more he was, the more the players were afraid. Now that the game world was more and more connected with the real world, all kinds of magic in the game could be displayed in the real world. More than once, someone raised a question. That was there a way to really kill players in the game? Regarding this question, it attracted the attention of many players. However, since the start of the game until now, the players' bodies could circle around the territory of the Great Zhao several times, and no one had really died. Over time, the players didn't think that there would be a way to really kill them in the game. However, subconsciously, there were still some people who had scruples. Now that they heard Qin Shujian say this, it immediately aroused the fear in the depths of some people's hearts. They only saw the red lotus break through the sky. In less than a breath's time, it swallowed a player. There were no screams or any struggles. In front of the red lotus of purgation, the player didn't even have time to react before he was swallowed. There was only a small red lotus floating where the player was originally standing. Seeing this, Qin Shujian shot out a stream of qi and directly destroyed the red lotus. Then, he fell into a short period of contemplation. The players had indeed been killed, but whether or not they had truly died was still an unknown. However, Qin Shujian had already remembered the player's name and planned to send people to search later. If they could find him, then they couldn't kill him. If they couldn't find him, then the probability of the player really dying was very high. Qin Shujian looked at the other players and said, It's too hard to find one person. If I kill all of you, it should be easier for hundreds of people to find him. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for these players to react, the red lotus of purgation covered everything and turned everything into ashes. An average-sized red lotus floated in the air. Qin Shujian waved his hand and shot out a stream of qi to shatter the red lotus that was condensed. From the beginning to the end, he had never thought of absorbing the power of the red lotus. No matter what, Qin Shujian still had his own bottom line in his heart. Just as he was about to send people to investigate the whereabouts of these hundreds of players. Rumble! The sky shook. A golden cloud was born from the sky and then floated down towards Qin Shujian. Golden cloud? Qin Shujian frowned. He didn't feel any threat from the golden cloud, so he didn't resist the golden cloud's descent. As the golden cloud touched his body, a pure force flowed into his body from the cloud. Rumble! The star acupoints vibrated, but it wasn't to the point of opening. At the same time, Qin Shujian's luck value also jumped by 1 point. This is a reward from heaven and earth! A sense of enlightenment surged from the bottom of Qin Shujian's heart. The golden cloud was nothing else but a reward from the rules of heaven and earth. In other words, what he had just done was meritorious to heaven and earth. Qin Shujian's expression changed again and again as he muttered to himself. There's a heaven and earth reward for killing players. In other words, players are a cancer to heaven and earth. Previously, I killed so many players, but there was no heaven and earth reward because those players weren't really dead. Now, there's a heaven and earth reward because those players are really dead. In just an instant, Qin Shujian figured out the crux of the matter. Killing players. No, it should be killing foreign demons. It was meritorious to heaven and earth. When he killed the demons, there was a luck value reward. Now, there was a luck value reward for killing players. This proved that in the eyes of heaven and earth, players were no different from demons. In fact, players were even more evil than demons. Otherwise, other than luck points, he wouldn't have been able to gain power. Originally, Qin Shujian had planned to send people to check if those hundreds of players were really dead. But now, he no longer had this thought. The hundreds of players were 100% dead. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a reward from the rules of heaven and earth. It's only a few hundred players and I'm only rewarded with 1 luck value. The energy rewarded by heaven and earth can't even open a star acupoint. It's too stingy. After Qin Shujian figured out the crux of the matter, he shook his head slightly. But soon, a smile appeared on his face. A few hundred players, no, a few hundred demons. The reward wasn't much, but it was still killing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even more demons. The reward was very generous. Chapter 528. Killing players would be rewarded by heaven and earth. Not only could it increase one's strength, but it could also obtain additional luck points as a reward. Qin Shujian's expression changed. How many players were there in the world? Billions! It was not inferior to the number of humans at all. If he could kill all these players, no, it should be the extraterrestrial demons, then the reward provided by heaven and earth would probably be able to directly raise him to the peak of the Guiyuan ancestral code. Moreover, it was far more than that. Qin Shujian murmured. If I kill all the extraterrestrial demons, I'm afraid I'll become an immortal on the spot. When that time came, it would really be a huge profit. However, Qin Shujian also understood that killing players might seem tempting, but now it was not to the point of killing without restraint. Because there were too many players. Billions of players were scattered all over the Great Shao. With his strength alone, it would undoubtedly be a difficult task to kill all these players. Moreover, with the number of players and the speed of improvement, once these players developed, there was no doubt that he would be dead for sure. Qin Shujian shook his head and suppressed the thought of courting death. It was fine to kill a few hundred players now. With so many people, the death of a few hundred players would not cause too much of a commotion. But if he massacred players wantonly, it would be difficult for people not to notice. For existences that could threaten them, the players would definitely spare no effort to eliminate them. It's true that the Celestials are strong, but if they are surrounded by a group of God Martial Realm, or tens of thousands of Spirit Martial Realm, or even a powerful army formation, they will only die. The Celestials were strong, but they were not invincible. In the world, there were many ways to kill a celestial being, even if they weren't everywhere. As long as one was willing to pay the price. Then killing the Celestials was only a matter of time. If his method of killing players was exposed, no matter how many sacrifices he had to make, the players would organize people to destroy him. Qin Shujian was very sure of this. Although the players were afraid of death and did not have any organization or discipline, most of them fought for themselves. But if they were really forced into a corner, these people would definitely join forces to prevent future troubles. The reward of heaven and earth is very tempting, but I have to be alive to take it. Qin Shujian took a deep breath. He didn't dare to gamble on the possibility of him being resurrected. And looking at the current situation, if he were to be killed, the probability of him dying would be very high. Therefore, in front of Qin Shujian, heaven and earth's rewards could only be seen but not touched. Unless it was done in secret. However, in terms of their own realm, a small number of players didn't have much of a reward. Only a large number of players could achieve a breakthrough in their realm. Even so, Qin Shujian was also in a good mood. At the very least, he knew that he had a way to keep the players in check. In the past, he faced players. Qin Shujian had always been wary of him. As for the reason why they were afraid, it was because players were immortal and could not be killed no matter how hard they tried. They were even more stubborn than cockroaches. Things were different now. The Red Lotus of Purgation could kill players, and that was enough. Qin Shujian sneered. If you push me too hard one day, I'll spread the Red Lotus of Purgation's training method. Let's see if there are enough players to kill. After that, Qin Shujian restrained his emotions. If the Red Lotus of Purgation was spread out, it would not only be a problem for the players but also cause a lot of disturbances. Unless it was a last resort, he was still not prepared to spread these things out. However, I can secretly train a group of people to secretly practice the Red Lotus of Purgation. Maybe it will be of great use in the future. Qin Shujian had an idea. The people who wanted to practice the Red Lotus of Purgation must be 100% trustworthy and loyal. Such loyalty was not as simple as having a loyalty of 100. After all, even if their loyalty was maxed out, there was a possibility that their loyalty would decrease. The most appropriate way was to find a group of people who would not decrease their loyalty and would be loyal to him. After thinking about it, Qin Shujian found that the group of people from the original Cold Mountain Stockade was the most reliable. How many people from the original Cold Mountain Stockade are left now? Qin Shujian was lost in thought. One was Zhang Tinu, one was Wang Taizhu, one was Zhang Ergu, there were not many people in the original Cold Mountain Stockade, only 60 or 70 at most. Now there were many expeditions and some people died in battle. Qin Shujian suddenly realized. There were less than 1/3 of the people in the original Cold Mountain Stockade now, and they were almost all dead. Qin Shujian could not help but swear. Damn it, they can't really die, or there will be no fun. He immediately left the forbidden area and walked towards the sect. In the past, he did not know the importance of these lackeys. Now, as long as he knew the benefits of being loyal, they were all delicious cakes. In the courtyard, more than 10 people gathered. Wang Taizhu, Zhang Tinu, Zhang Ergu, Lu Er, Chen Ergu, Chen Dainu. Looking at the row of people in front of him, Qin Shujian's eyes paused for a while between Zhang Ergu and Chen Ergu. Sure enough, the people of the Cold Mountain Stockade were still very recognizable. Not to mention other things, just this name alone was not something that ordinary people could have. Qin Shujian glanced over and saw a total of 17 people in front of him. Everyone's cultivation was at the peak of the spiritual martial force. Zhang Tinu cupped his hands and said, Sect Master, I wonder why you called us here today? Hearing this, the others also looked puzzled. Suddenly, they were called here. It would be a lie to say that there was nothing important. And they all looked at each other and found that they were all familiar. Needless to say, these were all old brothers from the past. Qin Shujian said, You are all the foundation left behind by the former Cold Mountain Stockade. These years I have been busy with other things and did not take care of you too much. Speaking of which, I have been negligent. Everyone was speechless. Then, Qin Shujian showed a fatherly smile on his face and said, Fortunately, you have all achieved something now. I am very gratified. In the entire Yuan sect, only you are worthy of my true trust. Zhang Tinu said, Sect Master, if you have any orders, we will do anything. Don't talk about life and death. The reason I called you here today is because I have a cultivation technique to impart to you. But remember, without my permission, you are not allowed to impart this cultivation technique to others. You are also not allowed to reveal it to others. Qin Shujian waved his hand and said with a solemn expression, without waiting for the others to speak. A divine thought spread out and instantly divided into a dozen and entered the minds of Zhang Tinu and the others. That was the cultivation method of the Red Lotus of Purgation. After the divine thought fell, Zhang Tinu and the others instinctively closed their eyes and silently digested everything that Qin Shujian had brought. After a long time, they opened their eyes again. Qin Shujian said, This is the cultivation method of the Red Lotus of Purgation. Combined with the Guyuan ancestral canon on the 5th floor of the library, it will be the complete inheritance of the Yuan sect. But the Guyuan ancestral canon can be leaked, but the Red Lotus of Purgation will not allow it. We understand. Zhang Tinu and the others bowed. Although they did not know why Qin Shujian did this, the cultivation method of the Red Lotus of Purgation in their minds was also very mysterious. Before this method was successfully cultivated, no one knew what the Red Lotus of Purgation was used for. Qin Shujian would not deliberately say it. Subsequently, Qin Shujian waved his hand and asked Zhang Tinu and the others to leave. The next day, he promoted several deacons to elders in the position of the sect master, and then left them in the sect. 210,000 disciples were recruited. At this time, they had been sent to the various sects one after another. For this, Qin Shujian also went to the cities of the 5 lineages and built a teleportation gate in each city, making it easier for the branch lineages to communicate with the main sect. After these things were done, everything in the Yuan sect was back on track again. In the courtyard, Qin Shujian sat alone. What else have I not done? The recruitment of disciples had been settled, the branches had been relocated, and the city had been successfully built. Qin Shujian was thinking about what else he needed to do. That is, if everything is done. Then it was time for him to leave and take a stroll overseas. Qin Shujian also wanted to know the secrets of the Eastern continent. During this period of time, he had asked Su Yuanming to collect information about the Eastern continent. Unfortunately, there was not much useful information. No, there was not much. There was nothing useful at all. Qin Shujian also gave up the idea of relying on others. The history of the human clan was too long. It was so long that many people did not know how long the human clan had existed. In the long years, many things were buried in the river of time and even decayed and disappeared. Therefore, in Qin Shujian's opinion, these things might have to be done by himself. What I need to do now is to wait for the birth of the Khanate spiritual object in the new area and then build Liangshan City into a Dao artifact. Apart from that, there is also the matter of the 3-sect alliance. After thinking about it, there were only 2 things left for him to do. No one knew when the Khanate spiritual object would be born. Qin Shujian gave himself a goal. If it was not born in a month, he would not waste any more time. As for the alliance of the 2 sects, it could be put on the agenda. The Heavenly Array sect and the Traceless sect already had heavenly humans. In addition, the strength of the 2 sects was not weak. If they formed an alliance, the situation of the Origin sect would be much better when facing the 3 continents in the future. At least, it was better than fighting alone. At the same time, it was time to rush his debt. After all, he owed the spirit stones for so long. It was almost due, but they had not been delivered yet. If it was overdue, he would have to pay extra. Falling Moon Mansion, Heavenly Array sect. After Fang Xinglan broke through to the heavenly humans, the power of the Heavenly Array sect rose to another level. Some of the sects that secretly opposed the Heavenly Array sect also gave up at this time. There was no choice. These sects dared to secretly compete with the Heavenly Array sect because Fang Xinglan did not have much lifespan left, and would pass away sooner or later. But now that Fang Xinglan had broken through to the heavenly humans, his lifespan had directly increased by a lot. These sects also extinguished this thought. After breaking through, Fang Xinglan might live longer than them. There was no need to talk about his strength. With his heavenly human's cultivation and the means of an array master, once he broke through, his strength would be much more terrifying than an ordinary first-level heavenly human's. So, how would those sects dare to go against the Heavenly Array sect? Not only that. Some sects even consciously sent gifts of apology and begged for the Heavenly Array sect's forgiveness. The Origin sect has sent a message and hopes that Uncle Master will go over, Mu Liang said with a respectful expression. After Fang Xinglan broke through, his position as the sect master had imperceptibly lowered by another point. But Mu Liang did not care too much. On the contrary, after Fang Xinglan broke through, the Heavenly Array sect had hopes of having a true heavenly human's inheritance. This was also a great thing for him. The current Fang Xinglan was no longer white-haired. Instead, he had turned into a handsome young man. His white hair had all turned black and stuck close to his back. Coupled with his green robes, he had the aura of a young master. Rejuvenation. After reaching the peak of the divine martial realm and breaking through to the heavenly humans, one would have a chance to rejuvenate. It was just that some people would return to their youthful appearance, while some people were used to their current appearance and did not choose to return to their past appearance. As for Fang Xinglan, he had already chosen the former. It seems that Qin Shujian can't wait any longer. Fang Xinglan smiled and said, "Prepare the spirit stones. When the time comes, I'll bring them over with me and this matter can be considered as settled." He originally wanted to address himself as an old man, but when he thought of his current appearance, it seemed to be inappropriate, so he changed his words. Mu Liang said, "There aren't many resources left in the sect now. If we give this batch of spirit stones to the origin sect, it will be quite troublesome for us in the future. You still want to swallow his spirit stones?" Fang Xinglan glanced at him indifferently and sneered. "Do you really think that the Heavenly Array sect can be unscrupulous after I broke through to the Heavenly Humans level?" "Martial uncle." Mu Liang wanted to say something but stopped. "I thought that after being the sect master for so many years, you would be able to see some things clearly. I didn't expect that. I still overestimated you." Fang Xinglan shook his head and said with disappointment, "Qin Shujian is now known as the strongest person in the cultivation world. Even if this title is somewhat exaggerated, his strength is definitely not to be underestimated. Although I've broken through to the Heavenly Humans level and am strong, I may not be a match for Qin Shujian. Not to mention, the Origin sect still has Jiangfeng. If the Origin sect really attacks, even if the Heavenly Array sect is not destroyed, we will definitely suffer heavy losses." Mu Liang's expression was ugly as he said, "At this time, the Origin sect may not have the guts to attack us." "Humph! Don't you know what kind of person Qin Shujian is?" Fang Xinglan sneered. "If he really attacks us, the Imperial Court may not say anything. Moreover, if he doesn't take action now, what about the future? It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge, but a villain takes revenge from morning to night. Do you think Qin Shujian is a gentleman or a villain?" "A gentleman or a villain?" Mu Liang fell silent. Needless to say, in his eyes, Qin Shujian was a villain through and through. However, such a person was also the most difficult to deal with. Hearing Fang Xinglan's words, Mu Liang also knew how stupid his idea was just now. Fang Xinglan said, "It's just 100 spirit stones. The Heavenly Array sect is not going to take it out. Moreover, even if we can't take it out, can't we ask for help from other sects? At worst, we can pay it back in the future. I believe that those sects will be very willing to help us." At the end of his words, a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Mu Liang was deep in thought. Immediately after, Fang Xinglan stood up and said, "If you're not strong enough, don't make an enemy of the Origin sect for the time being. Moreover, we're about to open up the 3 continents, and there may be other variables. Although the Heavenly Array sect is strong, it's nothing to the human clan. Not to mention the human clan, even if the Imperial Court wants to destroy the Heavenly Array sect, it will be enough to send a Heavenly Humans. In the past, all the feudal lords of the various prefectures were powerhouses who could suppress the cultivation world. Now that we've opened up the 3 continents, even the human emperor has to treat it seriously. You and I don't have the qualifications to reverse this trend. We can only go with the flow to have a chance of survival." Mu Liang was stunned and said, "Could it be that it's really so dangerous to open up the 3 continents? If it's not dangerous, why would the human emperor treat it seriously?" Fang Xinglan said, "Since the 3 continents are the same as the East continent and belong to a complete world, then the strength of the human clan in the East continent is already so strong, how can the other 3 continents be much weaker? Maybe they're even stronger than the human clan." Before Mu Liang could speak, Fang Xinglan didn't speak too much of his thoughts in detail, and directly left swiftly. He did not go to the Origin sect, but to the Heavenly Array sect's treasury. After all, if he went, the spirit stones had to be in place. The next day, Origin sect, Chengwu Hall. There were only 3 people sitting in the hall. One was Qin Shujian, one was Fang Xinglan, and the other was Yin Banqing. The 3 of them were 3 heavenly humans. They each represented a top sect behind them. As soon as Fang Xinglan sat down, he threw a storage ring over and said, "The 102 spirit stones that the Heavenly Array sect promised to give are all here. Sect Master Qin can count them." On the other side, Yin Banqing did the same. Qin Shujian did not argue and took the 2 storage rings. Then, with a sweep of his divine telekinesis, he easily erased the master recognition mark of the 2 storage rings. To this, Fan Xinglan and Yin Banqing looked at each other and saw the serious look in each other's eyes. What the storage ring had was the mark of ownership. Although there was not much divine telekinesis attached to it, it was not something that ordinary people could get rid of. For someone like Qin Shujian to be able to erase the master recognition mark so effortlessly, that person's strength was definitely more than a level above theirs. For a time, although their expressions did not change, their hearts became a little more solemn. Qin Shujian scanned the two storage rings with his divine telekinesis. After seeing the spirit stones inside, a warm smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect the two of you to be so punctual. I'm a little ashamed. Fan Xinglan and Yin Banqing turned a deaf ear. Ashamed? What were they thinking? They did not see the slightest bit of shame on Qin Shujian's face. Fan Xinglan coughed and said, Sect Master Qin, there's no need to talk about other things. Why don't we get straight to the point? Sure. Qin Shujian glanced at Fan Xinglan, and a word emerged in his heart, show off. He really did not expect Fan Xinglan to be so showy. It was fine that he had regained his youth. And he was so direct. Qin Shujian felt a wave of disgust in his heart when he compared it to the white-haired old man. Then, he looked at Yin Banqing. He was much more normal. However, although he was complaining in his heart, Qin Shujian's expression also became serious. He said, The two of you should also know that the human emperor will break the heaven and earth restrictions soon. At that time, the human race will have to face the three major continents. No one knows how strong the three major continents are. However, the human race of the East continent is already not weak. Then, no matter how weak the other three continents are, they can't be that weak. In the main hall, Qin Shujian spoke. Fan Xinglan and Yin Banqing both kept silent. Both of them knew what the other party said, but they also knew that this was just a stepping stone. The other party still had more to say. Anyway, this time, they were here for the alliance. Some things had to be made clear. Qin Shujian said, I don't know how long the heaven and earth restriction has existed, but as far as I know, the human race was already living in the East continent hundreds of thousands of years ago, and there have never been any rumors of the three major continents. As for older things, unfortunately, many things have disappeared in the long river of history. Similarly, the East continent and the three major continents have been separated for countless years. In the eyes of the living beings of the three major continents, the East continent is also an anomaly. Therefore, once the three major continents are connected, a war is inevitable. Either the East continent submits to the other three major continents, or the other three major continents suppress the East continent. Of course, there's also another possibility, and that is, behind the heaven and earth restriction, there's only one major continent and not the three major continents. However, this possibility is not high. We have to prepare for the worst. Once the war starts, it will affect the entire human race. At that time, no one has the right to stay out of it. Similarly, the three major continents also represent many unknown resources. If we want to fight for these resources, we also need to be strong enough. Now that our three sects have joined forces, if a war really breaks out in the future, with the strength of our three sects, we have the capital to contend. At least, we won't be fighting alone without help. There's no problem with the alliance, but I have something to ask. Yin Banqing said. Qin Shujian said. There's no harm in saying it. If our three sects join forces, how will the resources be distributed? If the sects are in danger, how will we support them? Yin Banqing asked the question in his heart. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile. Elder Yin, there may be some misunderstanding. The alliance between our three sects is only to resist the three major continents. If one sect is in trouble, then the other two sects must support it with all their strength if it's not a life-or-death situation. Once one sect violates the alliance, then the other two sects will join forces to suppress it. As for the so-called resources, each sect can fight for it with their own strength. If the three sects need to join forces to fight for it, we can divide it equally according to our contribution. I believe there won't be any objections. Hearing this, Fan Xinglan and Yin Banqing finally understood Qin Shijian's idea. The so-called alliance was only in times of crisis. The three sects would help each other and play their own game. When the time came for them to join forces, the three sects would stand on the same front. Neither of them had any objections to this. This kind of alliance was also the best. There was more freedom and there would not be too many restrictions. However, at this time, Qin Shijian said again, the alliance of three sects is not as simple as two sections. If there is a difficult decision to make in the future, there needs to be a unified decision maker. I'm not talented, but I'm willing to be the leader of the alliance. If anything happens to the alliance in the past, there will be someone to take charge of the overall situation. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other and then said, if that's the case, we have no objections. In their opinion, there was no need to fight for this. The so-called leader was just a title. Everyone was on equal footing. No one could order the other. Since Qin Shijian wanted to do this, they might as well let him be happy. Immediately, the three of them looked at each other and showed what they thought was a kind smile. P.S. Today's update is 18,000. Please support. Chapter 529. The matter of forming an alliance. The three parties hit it off immediately. Anyway, everyone had the same idea, so they didn't have any objections. Although the Celestial Array sect and the Traceless sect were both top sects, they were still weaker than the Origin sect. The strength of this sect. It depended on the level of top combat power. Yin Banqing didn't need to be mentioned. He had already suffered a loss in the hands of Qin Shijian. As for Fan Xinglan, he didn't think that he would be stronger than Qin Shijian. If that was the case, it wasn't a bad thing to have the Origin sect in front of him. After the two left, Qin Shijian directly entered the forbidden area. The Cosmos Bao didn't dare to go and greet him. Instead, he continued to cultivate. Qin Shijian took out the storage rings of the two sections. There were a total of 130 spirit stones inside. Originally, the two sects had a total of 204 spirit stones. Later on, in order to build the city, Qin Shijian took a portion of the resources from each sect. This portion of the resources was offset with spirit qi. Although it was a little painful to do so, he didn't have any money on him. There was nothing he could do. 130 spirit stones! I've already opened 500 star acupoints. I only need to open another 12 star acupoints to break through to the second level of the sky human realm. More than 100 spirit stones should be enough. Qin Shijian looked hesitant. In the past, more than 300 spirit stones only opened more than 30 acupoints. Moreover, the more acupoints were opened, the more energy they would need. Therefore, Qin Shijian wasn't sure if the current amount of spirit stones could support him to break through. However, it was just a thought. Qin Shijian wouldn't hesitate for too long. It didn't matter if he could break through or not. As long as he could improve his strength, that was enough. After placing the spirit stones properly, Qin Shijian used the most direct and violent method to absorb the pure spirit qi inside. City forging! The news of Liang Mountain Spirit Domain's forging city spread like wildfire, and Su Zhan also received the news. Fan Yilan said, Qin Shijian spent 5 days to build 5 cities. It seems that in terms of forging, you might not necessarily be better than him. If you can't do it, I suggest that you invite him over. She glanced at Su Zhan. After such a long time, there was still no progress. This was because the city was still under construction and it was not yet time to cast it. Others might not know, but how could Fan Yilan not know about Su Zhan's background? The other party wasn't confident either. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be wandering around. The others thought that the two of them were studying the terrain of the city, but only Fan Yilan knew that they were just wandering around, trying to find a solution. If it was in the past, Su Zhan had already opened his mouth to refute. But this time, he fell silent. Face was important, but the gateway to the eastern continent was even more important. If he couldn't successfully forge the city, then even if he was an elder of the imperial astronomer, he would have to bear the consequences. Su Jian frowned and said, "Let's wait a little longer. It'll take at least 1 or 2 months for the city to be completed. Moreover, you and I are both elders of the imperial astronomer. Although we're not famous in the cultivation world, we can still be called mighty figures." 2 mighty figures couldn't solve the problem, so they went to invite a kid who had just entered the diviner realm. "Fan Yilan, do you really want to lose face? Is face more important, or is the order of the human emperor more important? You have to distinguish clearly." Fan Yilan replied mercilessly. Talk about face. Now that she knew that face was important, what did she do earlier? Thus, he took on the responsibility of handling this matter. Now, she only knew how to talk about face when she couldn't solve the problem. Su Jian shook his head and laughed, and the sadness on his face disappeared. He said, "There's no hurry. Let's wait and see. It doesn't make sense that we can't do what Qin Shujian can do." Fan Yilan was proficient in formations. She was proficient in forging. If the two of them worked together, there might be a chance of success. While speaking, Su Jian also felt a little regretful. If he could see Qin Shujian forging the city with his own eyes, he might be able to see something. He wouldn't have to rely on his 2 hands. Fa Yilan also kept silent. If she didn't have to ask for help, it was better not to. Although she complained about Su Jian, she also had her own pride. No matter what. He was also a mighty figure. In terms of strength and status, he was at the top. Boom! As the last star acupoint was opened. At this moment, the 512 star acupoints bloomed with dazzling light. Immediately, the qi and blood turned into a galaxy, connecting all the star acupoints together. At the moment when the connection was successful, a terrifying and powerful aura spread out from Qin Shujian's body. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed color. Qin Shujian shouted in a low voice, and the overflowing power was immediately sealed. The scattered spirit stones around no longer had the slightest luster. The spirit qi inside had been completely sucked out, leaving only a little bit of origin power, which was not enough to completely break them. With the breakthrough in cultivation, Qin Shujian was in a good mood. Second level of the celestial being! This breakthrough directly saved tens of billions of life source. However, when Qin Shujian saw the spirit stones around him, his face stiffened. It was just that the price of this breakthrough was a little too high. In total, he had consumed more than 1,000 spirit stones to succeed in the breakthrough, and it was also thanks to the 9 tribulations immortal body. Otherwise, even if he had consumed more than 100 spirit stones, he still wouldn't have been able to break through to the second level of the celestial being. The joy of the breakthrough had faded a lot at this time. Barely breaking through to the second level of the celestial being had consumed so many spirit stones. If he broke through to the second level of the celestial being, how many spirit stones would he have to consume? Moreover, there were the third level of the celestial being, the fourth level, and so on. Qin Shujian took a look at the subsequent skills of the Guiyuan Ancestral Classic. Opening 720 star acupoints was considered to be at the second level of the celestial being, but opening 1,800 star acupoints was considered to be at the third level of the celestial being. He made a simple comparison. Qin Shujian estimated that to reach the third level of the celestial being, he would need to consume at least 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones. This was on the premise that opening the star acupoints in the future would increase the consumption. 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones could be said to be an astronomical figure. Given the current foundation of the Guiyuan sect, they had destroyed so many sects and killed many experts before they could gather more than 1,000 spirit stones. Right now, the possibility of getting so many spirit stones again was close to zero. Just thinking about it made Qin Shujian feel a little hopeless. 1 Marquis Moonfall and 1 Marquis Wan contributed more than 1,000 spirit stones. If I count it that way, the spirit stones aren't that much. I'll have it after killing a few dukes. Qin Shujian felt like crying as he thought about it. Killing a few dukes. It was really just a thought. Each of the dukes were experts at the pinnacle of the saint level. If he were to take action, it would be hard to say who would kill who. Moreover, the human emperor would not sit by and watch him fool around. By then, the human emperor would probably kill him the moment he made a move. The more he thought about it, the more helpless Qin Shujian felt. The joy of breaking through to the second level of the celestial being had completely disappeared. There was still a long way to go. He was still far from it. Now that he had broken through to the second level of the celestial being, coupled with his other means, Qin Shujian had the confidence to fight against a saint-level expert. As for whether he could win or not, he would only know after he fought. But in the current situation where the Almighties were suppressing an area and the human emperor was overseeing the world, the second level of the celestial being, which was comparable to the combat strength of a saint, was not enough. If I can break through to the fourth level of the celestial being, I'll be considered to have joined the ranks of the top. By then, even if it's the Almighties, I'll still have the power to fight. As for the conditions for breaking through to the fourth level of the celestial being, Qin Shujian took a look and felt gratified. As long as he opened up 5,120 star acupoints, he would be able to break through to the fourth level of the celestial being. He looked at his current situation. 512 pills. Very good. The first three numbers were about the same. Comparing the two, the difference was only 0. Qin Shujian felt gratified again. Then, he casually set up an array and threw down the spirit stones that had been depleted of spirit chi. Then, he left the forbidden grounds without looking back. He was short of more than 4,000 star acupoints. If his disciples did not work hard, Qin Shujian suspected that Yuan Zong might not be able to gather so many resources even if he were to save for 100 or 80 years or even 1,000 years. If he were to cultivate on his own, Qin Shujian believed that he would not be able to absorb so much spirit chi even if he were to become an idiot. The source of life is so fragrant. At this moment, that was the only thought left in his mind. There was nothing more fragrant than the source of life. There was no need to cultivate or do anything. He could increase his strength just by lying down. The prerequisite was that Yuan Zong was not destroyed by others. Walking in the sect, the main sect, which used to be bustling with people, was now much quieter. All the disciples were assigned to the 5 branches. In the main sect, apart from some elders and deacons, there were only a few disciples left. As for the disciples of the various branches, if they wanted to enter the main sect to cultivate, they would have to obtain a corresponding ranking in the competition between the branches every year. Qin Shujian felt the spirit chi in the main sect and frowned slightly. The spirit chi in the main sect is still a little lacking. Although it is rich, it is not outstanding enough. The spirit chi here was rich. However, no matter how dense it was only slightly stronger than the various branch veins. Such a concentration of spirit chi would be sufficient in other sections. However, in Yuan Zong, it was much worse. Since the various branch sects wanted to establish themselves in all directions, they wanted to turn the main sect into a holy land. The first thing to do was to increase the spirit chi to a tyrannical level. That was the only way. Only then could the other disciples understand the benefits of entering the main sect. If cultivating for a month was equivalent to cultivating for a year, then the disciples who wanted to enter the main sect every year would definitely rush like ducks. Not to mention that 1 month was equivalent to 1 year. 1 month was equivalent to half a year. 1 month was equivalent to 3 months. That was enough to establish the status of the main sect. However, to put it bluntly, it was still a problem of spirit stones. If there were not enough resources, everything would be in vain. If he were to sell it for 1,000 spirit stones, the spirit chi in the main sect would definitely reach a terrifying level. By then, every breath he took would be filled with spirit chi. Of course, to Qin Shujian, this was just an extravagant hope. In the Sundry Hall, Su Yuanming was much more relaxed during this period of time. The disciples were scattered to the various branches. There were not many people who came to his Sundry Hall to exchange things except for the people from the alchemy, casting, and array formation halls. Moreover, the people from the 3 halls were not there every day. Hence, as the sundry hall master, he was very relaxed. Seeing Qin Shujian enter, Su Yuanming stood up and congratulated him. Congratulations, sect master, your cultivation has improved. How could you tell? Just now, there was a vast aura that shot straight into the sky. Apart from the sect master, who else in the sect can have such an aura? Su Yuanming said with a smile. When Qin Shujian broke through. Although the overflowing aura was restrained very quickly, it was still there. But in any case, it had appeared before, so it was naturally captured by many people. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile. Let's cut to the chase. What's going on in the Lion-Tiger Plain now? Sect Master, are you talking about the demon vein? What do you think? The demon vein has been quite peaceful recently. As you know, Neodali has never had any desire to fight. I heard that in the past few months, the number of times he has even left the demonic bull cave can be counted on one hand. Su Yuanming said truthfully. Qin Shujian said. Pay attention to the demon vein, but don't be too deliberate, so as not to ruin everyone's relationship. Sect Master, are you worried about Elder Neo? If I'm not wrong, he should be the reincarnation of a mighty figure, and is very likely to be a demon. You know the grudge between the human race and the demon race. If he really awakens, it's hard to say whether he's an enemy or a friend. However, as long as he doesn't become our enemy, it doesn't matter whether he's a human or a demon. Qin Shujian said calmly. Su Yuanming's pupils constricted when he heard this. The reincarnation of a mighty figure of the demon race. If it wasn't for Qin Shujian, he would never have thought of this. Suddenly, Su Yuanming's face was solemn as he said, If he's really the reincarnation of a mighty figure of the demon race, I suggest that the sect master eliminate him. Our human race and the demon race have a blood feud for generations. Once he awakens, our sect will also suffer a great blow. Humans and demons could not coexist. The hatred between the two races had always existed. If Neodali was really the reincarnation of a mighty figure of the demon race, once the other party awakens the memories of his previous life, it was very likely that he would not care about the sex relationship. Qin Shujian said. Don't be too anxious. Now that he hasn't awakened his innate wisdom, it's unknown whether he can awaken in the future. Everything can be left for the future as long as he doesn't harm the interests of our sect. Then Neodali is still the demon vein master of our sect. You must remember this. He was worried that Su Yuanming would act against Neodali privately. Originally, Qin Shujian did not intend to tell too many people about the reincarnation of a mighty figure of the demon race. But if one day he was not in the sect and Neodali suddenly awakened and killed the sect by surprise, it would be troublesome. Seeing that Qin Shujian was serious, Su Yuanming could only suppress his inner thoughts and said, Don't worry, sect master. I know what to do. That's the best. Qin Shujian nodded and said, Don't spread this news too much without permission. There are some things that only the two of us know. After explaining some things to Su Yuanming, he got up and left the sundry hall. After going around in circles, he came to the drill hall again. As the great elder, Xingfang's residence was naturally his. However, he had always liked to stay in the drill hall, so Qin Shujian had no way to stop him. After all, it was his freedom to stay there. Even if he was the sect master, he could not interfere too much. Seeing that Qin Shujian had arrived, Xingfang said calmly, Sect master, are you preparing to leave? What does First Elder know? Qin Shujian was shocked. Xingfang shook his head and said, It's just a guess. It seems that sect master is indeed going on a long journey. There are some things that need to be done. It just so happens that the Great Zhao is still peaceful. Even if I'm not there, there won't be any big problems. Qin Shujian admitted frankly, and then sat down across from Xingfang. Xingfang poured him a cup of tea and said, Sect master, do you have any other instructions? Qin Shujian did not beat around the bush and said directly, If a connate spirit item is born in a new area while I'm gone, try not to take it or let anyone enter. At the same time, send me a message immediately. I will rush back as soon as I receive the message. Originally, he had planned to wait for a while. If the connate spirit item was not born, then he would leave. Now, Qin Shijian did not plan to wait. Since waiting was a waste of time, he might as well leave first. After the connate spirit item was born, if it was not touched, it could maintain its embryonic form for a while. Qin Shijian was also prepared to rush back at the last minute. Zheng Fang nodded and said, "Okay." He did not ask Qin Shijian where he was going. As the sect master, there were some things that he could not ask about. Soon, Qin Shijian left the martial arts hall. After leaving the martial arts hall, he did not stay for long. He directly left Liang Mountain and headed toward Liang Mountain City. Compared to the past, it was overcrowded. Now, Liang Mountain City was much more normal. The main reason was that the disciples had already gone to the various branches. In addition, the mountain gate opening ceremony had ended. Therefore, there were not many people in Liang Mountain City. Compared to the cities of the other top sects, Liang Mountain City was still number one. Walking into Liang Mountain City, Qin Shijian did not deliberately hide his appearance. But in fact, there were not many people who could discover him. After breaking through to the sky realm, some simple methods of shrinking into an inch were just at his fingertips. Although it wasn't as close as it could get, it wasn't something that an ordinary person could discover. Liang Mountain City, Teleportation Gate. When the two deacons guarding the teleportation gate saw Qin Shijian arrive, they bowed and greeted. "Greetings, Sect Master!" "No need for formalities." "Thank you, Sect Master." The two deacons stood up. One of them asked, "May I know where Sect Master is going?" "Xuanxu Land," Qin Shijian said indifferently. The two deacons immediately accepted the order and then opened the teleportation gate. Qin Shijian stepped into it and disappeared from where he was standing. After Qin Shijian left, the two deacons stood up and said, "Why do you think the Sect Master is going to Xuanxu Land? How can you and I guess the Sect Master's thoughts? Anyway, the sect has been established for so long. Do you know when the Sect Master will stay in the sect? This time, he has stayed for a few months. I think it is already a miracle." "That's true." The other deacon nodded in agreement. Other sect masters were in charge of the sect and would not leave unless there was an important matter. Their own sect master was not at home all day. He would come back a few times and stay for a while before leaving very quickly. To be honest, although they were deacons, the number of times they had actually seen Qin Shijian could be counted on one hand. The two of them did not talk much. When they saw that someone else had come, they quickly shut their mouths. On the other side, Qin Shijian had already appeared in Baifeng's city in Xuanxu Land. Xuanxu Land. This was the former Xuanxu True Dominion. This was the border of the Liang Mountain Spirit Dominion. After crossing the Xuanxu Land, one would enter the territory of the other True Dominion. The furthest place one could go from Liang Mountain City was Baifeng City. Only after reaching Baifeng City could one change to the teleportation gate and go to the other realms. After arriving at Baifeng City, Qin Shijian had no intention of catching up with Lin Wanyu. Instead, he turned around and stepped into the teleportation gate, heading to another place. East Pattern Prefecture. Strictly speaking, it was one of the more ancient big prefectures in the Great Zhao 13 prefectures. In terms of age, it was even older than the Central State Prefecture. The Central State Prefecture was in the center of the Great Zhao 13 prefectures, while the East Pattern Prefecture was at the border of the Great Zhao 13 prefectures. However, unlike the other prefectures, which were close to the Endless Mountain Range, the border of the East Pattern Prefecture was not the Endless Mountain Range. Instead, it was close to the vast ocean. The East Pattern Marquis, Fu Qing, who used to be in charge of the East Pattern Prefecture, was also a famous expert in the world. Unfortunately, Fu Qing rebelled and was eventually killed. The East Pattern Prefecture had also undergone a great purge. Even so, after the Great Purge, the East Pattern Prefecture did not cause much turmoil. Everything was still as usual. The imperial court had already sent new experts to take over the East Pattern Prefecture. As for the original followers of the East Pattern Marquis, Fu Qing, they were naturally all killed. The human emperor was benevolent and righteous. But this benevolence and righteousness were not on the rebels. In terms of iron and blood methods, Qin Shujian was also quite impressed. It took a total of half a day. Qin Shujian appeared in a big city of the East Pattern Prefecture. Walking out of the range of the teleportation gate, Qin Shujian walked slowly in the city, his eyes shuttling back and forth between the people in the city. Perhaps the East Pattern Prefecture was an ancient big prefecture. The clothes of the people were completely different from those of the Beiyun Prefecture and several other big prefectures. In addition, there was also a big difference in their figures. Regardless of whether they were men or women, old or young, they were generally taller. In addition, their bones were also a little thicker than the average person's, and their skin was darker. If these were ignored, compared with other people, the people of the East Pattern Prefecture were no different. Breathing in the air, a faint salty smell poured into his nose. Qin Shujian said with emotion, "Is this the East Pattern Prefecture? It's really an eye-opener." Qin Shujian looked at the others. Many people noticed him as well. For the people of the East Pattern Prefecture, it was easy to distinguish whether he was a native or not. However, these people just glanced at him casually and quickly looked away. In the city, there were teleportation gates connecting everywhere. From time to time, people from the outer prefecture also came to the East Pattern Prefecture. Although these people from the outer prefecture were a little strange in their eyes, they were not too curious. Chapter 530. The teleportation gate is really convenient. Without the teleportation gate, it wouldn't be easy to cross from Beiyun Mansion to Danwen Mansion. Walking on the street, Qin Shujian looked at everything around him. If he hadn't come to Danwen Mansion, he would have found it hard to believe that there would be so many differences between the people of the Great Zhao country. This also indirectly proved that the Great Zhao country was really big. It was so big that the people of the two mansions were very different. If ordinary people wanted to walk out of their own mansions, they might not be able to do so in their entire lives. Abandoning the distant road, traversing through a prefecture, one would encounter even more dangers. Any of these things was enough to kill ordinary people. As for Danwen Mansion, Qin Shujian's deepest impression should be the top sect of Danwen Mansion. "I think it's called something else, Fu Hai Sect." Qin Shujian recalled the top sects of Danwen Mansion before he remembered the name. Fu Hai Sect. Compared with other top sects, this sect was much more low-key. If not for the people of Danwen Mansion, some cultivators of other mansions might not have heard of the name of Fu Hai Sect. If he hadn't come to Danwen Mansion this time, Qin Shujian wouldn't have deliberately inquired about Fu Hai Sect. Of course, he didn't mean anything. He just thought that since he came to Danwen Mansion, he had to be more familiar with the local tyrant. Why did the Liangshan Fort Master come to Danwen Mansion? F***CK, is he here to attack the cultivation world of Danwen Mansion? Who knows? Maybe some treasure has appeared in Danwen Mansion. Do you want to follow him and take a look? Okay. When many players saw Qin Shujian, they wondered if they had seen the wrong person. Some time ago, the video of Qin Shujian pulling up a mountain and carrying a mountain was posted on the forum, making this outdated Fort Master of Liangshan Fort popular again. For a time, many people knew Qin Shujian. Although Danwen Mansion was far away from Liangshan's spiritual domain, the players were connected regardless of region. Qin Shujian didn't stay in Beiyun Mansion, but came to Eastwen Mansion. These players wouldn't believe that there was nothing wrong with him. Many people were secretly guessing the purpose of Qin Shujian's visit to the Eastwen Mansion. Walking on the street, Qin Shujian also knew that someone was secretly watching him. The perception of a celestial was no joke. But he didn't care. Qin Shujian thought that since he was now a celebrity, it was normal for people to stare at him when he went out. However, he, Sect Master Qin, had never changed his name, nor did he have the habit of hiding his head and showing his tail. As long as they didn't go against him, it was fine. If they wanted to go against him, only death awaited them. Qin Shujian did not deliberately hurry. Instead, he walked slowly on the street. Since he had come to the Danwen mansion, he was not in a hurry. To a certain extent, the Eastwind Prefecture was also considered a foreign land. No, it should be a foreign prefecture. It was not a bad idea to learn about the local customs of other prefectures. Along the way, Qin Shujian, like an ordinary person, spent an hour or two to walk slowly to the city gate. On the way, he stopped in front of some stalls, looking curious. Behind him, many players secretly ridiculed. *CK his uncle, is he really here for a vacation? Is he still going or not? Could it be that he found us? Do you think that even if he found us, he will deliberately delay time, or do you think that he will be afraid of us? A player looked at another player as if he was looking at an idiot. Don't be ridiculous. He was the ultimate big boss of the celestial realm. Why would he be afraid of you, a stinky fish and shrimp of the real martial realm? However, the probability of Qin Shujian noticing them was also very high. But since the other party did not respond, it was obvious that he acquiesced to their following. Seeing this, some of the players were also silently following behind him. Some of these people were brainless with fantasies, and some of them just wanted to know the whereabouts of Qin Shujian. When Qin Shujian walked out of the city gate, a group of people immediately followed him. Outside the city gate, Qin Shujian suddenly stopped and said faintly, "Enough is enough. If you continue to follow, don't blame me for being ruthless." After that, he walked away. Behind him, some of the following players involuntarily stopped and looked at the back of the other party. Their faces were a little conflicted. There were still many forces that wanted to buy Qin Shujian's whereabouts. If they could figure out the purpose of the other party in the Eastwind Prefecture and sell it as information, it would be a lot of silver. But Qin Shujian's warning, however, made these people hesitate. They would not think that Qin Shujian was joking. In other words, if they continued to follow, they would die. In the view of the players, although they could be resurrected, they would lose a level each time they died. It would take at least a few months to practice again. This price was not small. Thinking of this, some players shook their heads and turned away regretfully. However, there were still some players who did not give up and wanted to continue to follow the other party. After walking for about 10 miles, Qin Shujian shook his head and sighed. Stubborn. Damn it, I can't persuade you. He did not do anything. The bodies of the players who followed in the distance suddenly exploded, as if they were squeezed by an invisible big hand. Immediately afterward, Qin Shujian's palm grabbed the void. Several figures fell from the space and fell in front of him. The aura of those people was not weak. The strong ones had even reached the god martial arts realm, and the weak ones were in the airborne realm. Being pulled out from the dark by Qin Shujian, these people's faces changed drastically. Sect Master Qin, please don't do anything. I'm from the Fu Hai sect. I mean no harm. Sect Master Qin, I'm from the Imperial Court. I'm just following orders to investigate. Sect Master Qin. As soon as these people opened their mouths, they immediately exposed their families. They were afraid that they would be killed by Qin Shujian if they were too slow to speak. Those mutants who followed him didn't even have the right to speak before they were all killed. Such powerful strength caused fear to rise in people's hearts. Qin Shujian looked indifferent and said, I've already given you a chance to not follow me without permission. Yet you turn a deaf ear to my words. Sect Master Qin. The expressions of those people changed again. They could sense the murderous intent in Qin Shujian's words. The general in armor hurriedly said, Sect Master Qin, I'm from the Imperial Court. Before he could finish his words, the surrounding spirit chi turned into a big hand and squeezed him. What Imperial Court? You talk too much. Qin Shujian looked calm, as if he was not crushing an airborne realm cultivator, but an ant. Run! The remaining few people ran in all directions at the same time. Qin Shujian killed people from the imperial court without hesitation, so there was no way he would let them go. Those people were also complaining in their hearts. Being sent to follow such a murderous god was indeed not a good job. Qin Shujian stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the fleeing figures. He said with a faint smile, "If I let you escape, then my reputation will be ruined." His divine consciousness turned into a blade. He slashed out in the air. At this moment, the spiritual deities of those fleeing cultivators were all destroyed. Their bodies fell from the air like weeds. At this point, all of the people who followed him were killed. "Why bother? You're digging your own graves." Qin Shujian looked indifferent. He walked in front of these corpses and began to harvest the spoils. He was not affected by the deaths of these people. Whether it was the people of the Fu sea-filling sect or the imperial court, as long as they did not provoke him, they would be safe. If they provoked him, only death would await them. Although Qin Shujian had a good relationship with the imperial court, it was only with Marquis Baiyun, mortal Emperor Shan Hao, and a dozen others. It did not mean that he had a good relationship with others. Now the imperial court of the East Pattern Mansion had sent people to follow him. Even if they had no malicious intentions, they could not blame anyone if they were killed. After all, they had followed a celestial being without permission. It was normal for him to attract a fatal disaster. Even in the face of a human emperor, Qin Shujian could stand firm. After Qin Shujian left, some people came here one after another. Looking at the corpses that had not been completely refreshed, their expressions changed. "He is indeed a murderous god. He killed so many people as soon as he came to the East Pattern Mansion. Even the great cultivators in the god martial arts realm could not fight back in front of him. His strength is really terrifying. Qin Shujian's reputation is not made by words. It is made by killing. I told you not to send people to follow him, but you just had to send people to die." Several people shook their heads and sighed. They also felt the pain of losing so many masters. Immediately, a middle-aged man turned his head and looked at a man in brocade. He laughed and said, "City Lord Bai, it seems that your imperial court's reputation is not very useful. Qin Shujian killed people just like that." City Lord Bai's face was extremely gloomy as he replied coldly, "Mind your own business. Don't talk so much." Qin Shujian killed his people without saying a word, which made him feel that his dignity was trampled on. He was just concerned about Qin Shujian's strength. City Lord Bai did not dare to really go to Qin Shujian to reason with him. Although his status as a city lord was not low, the former Marquis Luowei and Marquis Wan were killed by him. City Lord Bai did not think that Qin Shujian would show mercy if he angered him. Hearing this, the middle-aged man laughed and said, "I was just saying. Forget it. Our sea-filling sect can't afford to offend Qin Shujian. Goodbye." After that, the middle-aged man flew away. He was an elder of the sea-filling sect, and he also came for Qin Shujian's matter. The leader of the top sect in Baiyun Mansion stepped into the East Pattern Mansion. As the local tyrant of the East Pattern Mansion, how could the sea-filling sect really not care? No matter what, they had to send someone to check the situation. Among the people who were killed just now, there were disciples of the sea-filling sect. However, this elder of the sea-filling sect did not intend to take action from beginning to end. It was not that he did not want to, but he did not dare to. Like City Lord Bai, the middle-aged man was also afraid of death. Qin Shujian was now known as the strongest master in the cultivation world. Unless the celestial being of the sea-filling sect took action, anyone who went up against him would be courting death. It was not easy to cultivate to the god martial arts realm. It would be too stupid to go up and court death. As the middle-aged man left, the others present hesitated for a moment and turned around to leave. They could not afford to offend him. Then they would hide. They originally wanted to inquire about Qin Shujian's purpose, but now they no longer had this idea. Because all the people who inquired about it were dead. Unless they wanted to die, they had to hide as far away as possible. When they left, these people only hoped that Qin Shujian would not make too much noise in the East Pattern Mansion, so as not to affect them. Alas, the East Pattern Mansion has been peaceful for 100 years. I hope there won't be too many disputes. Someone left behind a faint sentence and a helpless sigh. City Lord Bai stood in place, and his expression changed. After a long time. Only then did he turn back. Qin Shujian wantonly killed his people, and this matter had been remembered. Although he was angry, City Lord Bai also knew that this matter needed to be reported immediately. It was not to report that he was killed, but to report that Qin Shujian came to the East Pattern Mansion. Even Qin Shujian did not expect this. He came to the East Pattern Mansion and did not make much trouble, but the whole East Pattern Mansion was already surging with undercurrents, and the situation was tense both openly and secretly. The sea-filling sect, which had always been low-key, also became more active. On the other side, after Qin Shujian killed those who followed him, he left the city and went to the border of the East Pattern Mansion. The appearance of City Lord Bai and the others behind him was actually within his perception. But these people did not follow him, and Qin Shujian did not bother to pay attention to them. No one knew when. A Qin Shui river had appeared in front of Qin Shujian. Downstream of the river, there were women washing clothes and children playing. In the distance, smoke rose in spirals, showing a quiet and peaceful scene. Upstream of the river, there was an old man wearing a bamboo hat, fishing with his back straight, like a motionless wooden man. When Qin Shujian walked over, he saw Qin Shujian. The old man slowly opened his mouth and said, "The East Pattern Mansion has been peaceful for 100 years. The people here are far away from the smoke of war and have never experienced fighting. Although I don't know why Sect Master Qin came to the East Pattern Mansion, I only have one request." Then this old man only has one request, and that is, I hope that Sovereign Qin will not destroy the peace and harmony of the Eastern Pattern Mansion. Qin Shujian stopped and said calmly, "I never intended to destroy the peace of the East Pattern Mansion. Some people don't know the rules and make decisions without permission. I don't know if it's their own problem or their lack of guidance. Even if it's a lack of guidance, Sect Master Qin can just teach them a lesson. Why kill them? Just kill them. Do you want to stand up for them?" Qin Shujian sneered with disdain. The old man was silent for a while and said, "I don't want to stand up for them. I just want to ask. In your opinion, those people really deserve to die? Those who violate my rules deserve to die?" The old man sighed and said, "Sect Master Qin is really as domineering as the rumors say." With his hands behind his back, Qin Shujian looked at the old man and said, "I heard that there was a celestial being in the sea-filling sect who proved his Tao 2,000 years ago. I vaguely remember that his surname is Si, but I don't remember his full name." "I'm Si Ha Hai," the old man said. "If you want to stand up for them, I'll also see the strength of the celestial being in the sea-filling sect." Qin Shujian stared at the old man with shining eyes. There was a long silence. The old man picked up his fishing rod and stood up from the lawn. For the first time, he looked at Qin Shujian and said, "I haven't fought for many years. I thought I would never have a chance to fight again in my life. However, Sect Master Qin is so aggressive. If I give in again, people will inevitably see the true strength of the sea-filling sect." While speaking, the aura of the old man had become as vast as the abyss. Qin Shujian was also dignified. Si Han Hai, the strongest man in the sea-filling sect. He proved his Tao 2,000 years ago, but his achievements were few. In the past 1,000 years, Si Ha Hai had disappeared. If it weren't for the fact that the lifespan of a celestial being was at least 5,000 years, many people would have suspected that he had died. Although Si Ha Hai hadn't fought for many years, Qin Shujian would not underestimate him. Because Si Ha Hai was a true genius. He started cultivating at the age of 20, broke through to the true martial realm at the age of 30, broke through to the spiritual martial realm at the age of 50, broke through to the divine martial realm at the age of 100, and reached the celestial being at the age of 300. Qin Shujian was a little surprised by Si Hanhai's experiences as he recalled everything that had happened to him. He started cultivating at the age of 20. It could be said that he had a bad start. It took him 30 years to break through to the true martial realm and 10 years in the middle. His talent was a mess. However, he broke through to the spiritual martial realm at the age of 50 and the divine martial realm at the age of 100. With such talent, even if he wasn't a top genius, he wasn't someone ordinary people could compare to. But what really made Si Hanhai famous was he reached the celestial being at the age of 300. He stopped at the divine martial realm for 200 years and reached the celestial being at the age of 300. In the middle, he only spent 200 years to break through to the celestial being realm. In the world, many talented people had wasted thousands of years, and even when they reached the end of their lifespan, they still couldn't reach the celestial being realm. People like Fan Xinglan and Yin Banqing. When they were young, which one of them wasn't a talented person? But even so, they exhausted their qi and blood and didn't have a chance to break through. It was only when Qin Shujian gave them the cultivation pill that they luckily stepped into the celestial being realm. From this, it could be seen Si Hanhai's talent was terrifying. Ever since Si Hanhai broke through to the celestial being realm at the age of 300, his name spread throughout the cultivation world. It was just that Si Hanhai was extremely low-key after breaking through to the celestial being realm. As time passed, many people gradually forgot that there was such a strong person in the world. If it wasn't for the news about the Fu Hai sect, Qin Shujian also hadn't heard of Si Hanhai's name. A dog that bites doesn't bark. Now, in his eyes, Si Hanhai was a dog that didn't bite. Such a person either really didn't care about fame and fortune, or he had a great plan. No matter which it was, Qin Shujian would lower his guard. Make your move! Let me see how strong the famous Si Hanhai is! Qin Shujian clasped his hands behind his back. Although his heart was heavy, there was a faint smile on his face. The old man, who was also Si Hanhai, nodded and didn't refuse. Since Sect Master Qin has spoken, this old man will naturally do as you say. As soon as he finished speaking, the fishing rod extended forward, and the void shattered soundlessly. In Qin Shujian's eyes, the fishing rod was no longer an ordinary fishing rod, but a divine weapon that could destroy heaven and earth. That destructive aura was like a demon that had been sealed for a long time and finally broke out at this moment. However, Qin Shujian wasn't afraid. He pushed his right hand forward and activated 512 star acupoints. Immediately, it collided with the fishing rod. The two collided. There was no sound and no aftershock. There was. It was just shattered space and a pitch-black void. Si Hanhai's arm that was holding the fishing rod shook slightly. Then, the fishing rod turned and swept towards Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian stepped forward and counterattacked with his elbow to the right, shaking the fishing rod back. At the same time, his right hand pressed out towards Si Hanhai. Si Hanhai's eyes moved slightly. His left hand also stretched out and caught the attack. The terrifying power shattered the void and made his body retreat. The two of them didn't fight fast and didn't make much noise. However, every time they collided, it was accompanied by the collapse of space. After a long time, the two of them suddenly separated. Qin Shujian stepped back and said with a chuckle, "As expected of the top cultivator of the Tuohai sect, your strength is really extraordinary. It is rumored that the third tier of the celestial being realm is the top in the cultivation world. I once believed it. But today, it seems that I was just a frog in a well. I didn't expect the low-key Tuohai sect to hide a Saint Realm cultivator." Yes. A Saint Realm cultivator. The fight just now made Qin Shujian understand that Si Hanhai was not an ordinary celestial being, but a Saint Realm cultivator who had reached the fourth tier of the celestial being realm. As for what realm the other party was in, Qin Shujian didn't know. He didn't use the Dharma Eye to spy. With Si Hanhai's strength, it was impossible for him not to notice the existence of the Dharma Eye. Once he did, the two of them would be mortal enemies. After all, no one would easily let go of spying on their own secret realm. Qin Shujian wasn't afraid of Sihahai, but there was no need to fight a Saint Realm cultivator to the death. He didn't come to the East Pattern Mansion to start a war with the Tuahai sect. He really just wanted to pass by. Sihahai looked inexplicable and said, "Everyone knows that Sect Master Qin is the top cultivator in the cultivation world. Today, I see that you don't live up to your name. I just hope that Sect Master Qin won't cause too much killing in the East Pattern Mansion. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them." Qin Shujian's smile faded a little, and he said, "If someone insists on offending me, they are seeking their own death. You are also a celestial being, so you should know the consequences of offending a celestial being." Celestials were noble. They were no longer comparable to mortals. Anyone who offended a celestial being was like insulting a divine being to a certain extent, and it didn't matter if they were killed. Sihahai was silent for a moment, and then he said, "I will restrain the others and not disturb Sect Master Qin. That's the best. I have other things to do, so I will take my leave first. If I have time in the future, I will really come to learn from you," Qin Shujian said with his hands behind his back. Then he took a step forward and disappeared. He didn't intend to talk too much nonsense with Sihahai. If Sihahai hadn't come to stop him, Qin Shujian wouldn't have even thought of meeting him. At the same time, the fishing rod broke in the middle. Sihahai looked at the broken fishing rod in his hand and murmured, "The top cultivator in the great Zhao dynasty." After that, he shook his head and let out a long sigh. He picked up the broken fishing rod on the ground, then put away the fish basket by the river, and quietly disappeared. Smoke was still rising, and the children were still playing. No one knew that a shocking battle had just taken place here. Chapter 531. Qin Shujian floated away. Sihahai's move was beyond his expectation. The sea-filling sect had always been low-key. Sihahai, the top master of the sea-filling sect, had not made a move for a long time. This time, Sihahai, a master who had been silent for a long time, showed up directly. Qin Shujian shook his head and laughed. "It seems that my influence is greater than I thought. But I just came to the Eastwind Mansion, and such a master came out to deter me. Is the Eastwind Mansion really so quiet and peaceful?" He didn't believe it. None of the prefectures could have true peace. But along the way, Qin Shujian found that there were surprisingly few fights in the Eastwind Mansion. There were occasional fights, but they rarely hurt people's lives. Most of the people who made a move were players, and the local people could be ignored. While he was surprised, Qin Shujian's thoughts drifted to Sihahai. He originally thought that in the cultivation world, the strongest was the existence of the third tier of the celestial being. After all, for so many years, there had been no sage realm master who showed his power in front of people. However, Qin Shujian also wondered if there was an old monster who had lived for a long time in any sect. But this guess, it had never been confirmed. Until now, when Qin Shujian met Sihahai, he realized that the foundation of the cultivation world was not as shallow as it seemed. Let's not talk about anything else. Sihahai was a master of the sage realm. Although he didn't know which tier of the celestial being he was, if his strength was exposed, the sea-filling sect must be one of the top sects in the world. To be honest, if he broke through to the sage realm, Qin Shujian was sure that he would not be so low-key. "It's a pity that I can't really make a move, and I can't test Sihahai's strength. But the top master of the sea-filling sect doesn't seem to be as aloof as I thought." As Qin Shujian walked, he recalled the scene of the fight just now. First of all, he also confirmed one point. Although he was only in the second tier of the celestial being, with the foundation of the Guiyuan ancestral scripture, even if he was a master of the sage realm, he still had a chance. The only difference was who would win and who would lose. However, Sihahai did not really use his full strength, and Qin Shujian also held back. In the battle just now, no one could do anything to the other. What really concerned Qin Shujian. In addition to Si Hanhai's strength, there was also the destructive aura when he attacked. In other words, Si Hanhai must have some unknown secret. Perhaps this had something to do with the fact that the other party had remained silent for so many years. It was just a small matter, but Qin Shujian thought of a lot of things. Interesting. If there is a chance in the future, I can test the strength of the Fu Hai sect. If possible, it might be a good choice to pull the Fu Hai sect into the alliance. Qin Shujian smiled. Si Hanhai's strength was worthy of his attention. At the very least, Si Hanhai was the strongest among the many experts he had met, excluding those from the imperial court. The title of the strongest cultivator in the world of cultivation is still up for debate. But when I break into the Saint Plane, there should be no more debate. In less than half a day, Qin Shujian was already far away from the original city and had crossed several regions. Eastwind Mansion. 3 sides were connected to the Great Jiao, and one side was facing the vast sea. The city that Qin Shujian walked out of before was already close to the sea. Now that he had spent half a day, although he had not yet reached the seaside, he had already felt the familiar aura. That was the aura of the sea. He had also been to the sea in his previous life, but he had never been here in this life. Now that he was about to arrive, Qin Shujian was a little excited. As time went by, in Qin Shujian's perception, there was already the sound of surging waves. An average-sized village appeared in his line of sight. At the entrance of the village, there were also many people coming and going. This place was by the sea. The desire and curiosity of the endless sea would still attract many people. Therefore, in addition to the people in the village, there were more outsiders here. Among these outsiders, there were people from the Eastwind Mansion as well as people from outside. After all, although Eastwind Mansion was an ancient mansion, it did not mean that it had a lot of resources. Instead, as time went by, it was a bit of a remote village. However, this remote village was also relative to other big mansions. But anyway, if it was not necessary, few people would come to Eastwind Mansion, unless they wanted to retire. Therefore, they were not people who wanted to retire. 90% of the people who came to Eastwind Mansion came for the vast sea. When Qin Shujian walked to the entrance of the village, a middle-aged man directly greeted him and said enthusiastically, "Sir, I am a villager of this fishing village. You can call me Ali. May I ask if you are going to go to sea? If you are going to sea, I have a good ship here, and the price is not expensive. I guarantee that you will not be disappointed." Qin Shujian did not speak. The middle-aged man, Ali, had already said a lot. His tone was very fast, for fear that others would be impatient, but his speech was very clear and would not be blurred because of the speed. It was obvious that the other party had practiced this very well. Qin Shujian nodded and said, "I am going to sea." "Haha, may I ask your surname?" "Qin. It turns out to be Master Qin. May I ask if Master Qin is going to sea alone or with several people? How long do you plan to go? If you tell me, I can give you an accurate introduction," Ali said with a smile. In his opinion, Qin Shujian was well-dressed and had an inexplicable temperament. Such a person was either rich or noble. Looking at his calm posture, he was almost sure that he was a strong person who had set foot on the cultivation path. Ali had been in the fishing village for so many years. Although he was also an ordinary person, he thought that he was very accurate in judging people. Qin Shujian said, "I am going alone. As for how long I will be going, it depends on the situation. You can arrange a ship for me here. Master Qin, are you going alone, or do you need a helmsman, a deck sailor, and others?" "I can go alone." "Well, Master Qin, please come with me." Ali was shocked and his expression was much more respectful. He went to sea alone without a helmsman or other people's help. If he was not a strong person in the cultivation world, who would have such confidence? Moreover, the other party was not as simple as an ordinary strong person. They walked into the fishing village. Ali introduced everything around as if they were familiar with each other and said, Master Qin, this should be the first time you have come to the Eastwind Mansion. The most famous thing in our Eastwind Mansion should be the products in the sea. These aquatic products are extremely rare in other places. Only our Eastwind Mansion has them. If Master Qin is interested, you can have a try. Qin Shujian shook his head slightly. Looking at the people passing by, he said, Are there many outsiders coming to the fishing village every day? Yes. After all, although our fishing village is small, it is close to the sea. Many people will choose to stay here temporarily or prepare some materials for the sea. Ali nodded and said. Qin Shujian said, In my opinion, with so many outsiders, will they break the peace of the fishing village or cause any fights? In his perception, there was no strong aura hidden in the fishing village. Just like Ali, who was in front of him, was just a strong mortal. The fishing village was so weak. If it encountered some violent cultivators, it would be destroyed in minutes and people would die. Ali was not surprised when he heard this. He said with a smile, Master Qin, you are not the only one who has asked this question. Although our fishing village is small, it has a background. The sign of the Fu Sea Covering sect has been hung at the entrance of the village. This also shows that our fishing village is protected by the Fu Sea Covering sect. Moreover, there have always been few disputes in our Eastwind Mansion. With the protection of the Fu Sea Covering sect, things like what Master Qin said generally don't happen. The sign of the Fu Sea Covering sect. Qin Shujian recalled that he did see a sign at the entrance of the village. But he knew a little about the Fu Sea Covering sect, but he really didn't know what the sign of the Fu Sea Covering sect was. However, Qin Shujian was confident enough that he didn't need to care about these things. If it were others who came to the Eastwind Mansion, they would not dare to be so presumptuous. No matter how low-key the Fu Sea Covering sect acted, it could not erase its reputation as a top sect. Such a force. Not everyone could be easily offended. Because only the existence of the celestial being level means could be called a top sect. The rest did not have this qualification. During the conversation, Ali had taken Qin Shujian to a dock. There were many boats docked at the dock. There were big sails more than 10 feet long and fishing boats less than 10 feet long. When he looked at the boats and cast his gaze into the distance, he only saw a vast sea in front of him. The sea was level with the sky and the earth, as if converging into a line. Many boats were floating in the sea, either going far away or returning. At this time, Ali had walked over to talk to a middle-aged man. After talking for a while, the two men walked over to Qin Shujian. The middle-aged man said first, Master Qin, what kind of boat do you need? That one. Qin Shujian stretched out his hand. It was the smallest fishing boat. Seeing this, the middle-aged man did not show any abnormality. He only explained, Master Qin, the hull of a fishing boat is relatively fragile. If you want to sail far away, it is easy to have unforeseen events. Moreover, if you encounter too much wind and waves, there is also the danger of sinking the boat. No matter. Qin Shujian waved his hand and said, How much silver? Do you want to buy or rent? Let's buy it. Qin Shujian replied without hesitation. Rent my ass. Who knew that he would not come back from here? When the time comes, he would have to come back and withdraw the boat. Was he, Lord Qin, crazy? The middle-aged man's smile became warmer. He said, If Master Qin wants to buy, just give me 3 taels of silver. After all, the fishing boat, no need to say more. Qin Shujian waved his hand and took out an ingot of silver and threw it over. The middle-aged man said 3 taels, but this ingot of silver was definitely more than 3 taels. Reaching out to take the silver, the middle-aged man said, Master Qin, please wait a moment. I will give you the change. Give the extra money to him. Qin Shujian indicated to Ali, who was standing by the side. Hearing this, Ali was instantly overjoyed. He repeatedly thanked. Thank you, Master Qin, for your reward. Although he had not come into contact with that ingot of silver, but with his many years of experience, he could tell that it was at least 5 taels. 5 taels of silver, After deducting 3 taels of silver for the boat, there was still 2 taels of silver left. For Ali, 2 taels of silver was something that he had to work hard for a long time to earn. The middle-aged man kept the silver, and then said warmly, "Master Chin, please follow me." Then, the 3 of them walked towards the pier. The middle-aged man pointed to the dozens of small boats and said, "Master Chin, you can choose any one of them." After saying this, Qin Shujian took a step forward. In the next moment, he had already appeared on one of the small boats. The sudden change. It made the middle-aged man and Ali extremely shocked. Before the 2 of them could react, they saw the rope that tied the small boat silently break. The small boat, as if it was being pushed by countless people, directly broke through the sea and sailed away. In this way, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. This, the middle-aged man stuttered, as if he was stunned by the scene in front of him. He had seen many cultivators, but there was no one who could do what Qin Shujian did. Ali also sighed and said, "Master Qin is really a strong cultivator in the cultivation world. It makes people yearn for him." After sighing with emotion, Ali chuckled again and looked at the middle-aged man. He remembered that there were still 2 taels of silver left on the other party. At this time, there were also many cultivators on the pier. Some people saw Qin Shujian driving the small boat away in the wind and waves, and suddenly some competitiveness rose. They saw that a group of 5 people had originally bought a large boat and had a lot of people on it. Now they drove these people out. The 5 of them activated their vital essence and slowly drove the big boat away from the pier. However, there were also some people who recognized Qin Shujian's identity. Their eyes flashed again and again, and they immediately passed the news out. The news that Qin Shujian had come to the East One Mansion. It was both a secret and not a secret at the same time. For those at the bottom, they naturally couldn't come in contact with such things. But for some powerful cultivators, the arrival of the strongest cultivator in the cultivation world was already known to everyone. The mountains were covered in clouds and mist. Occasionally, red-crowned cranes flew by, and the trees were verdant, presenting a scene like a fairyland. Compared to the quiet and peaceful Eastwood Mansion, this place gave people a kind of tranquility like a paradise. For the people in the Eastwood Mansion, this place was the holy land in their hearts. Because this was where the Fu Hai sect was located. As for why the Fu Hai sect didn't establish a sect on the sea but in the mountains, this was unknown. On the peak of the mountains, 2 people sat opposite each other, with a chessboard in the middle, and were playing chess. If Qin Shujian was here, he would find that one of them was Si Ha Hai, who he had met before. In the entire Fu Hai sect, only the sect master could sit opposite the strongest cultivator of the Fu Hai sect. The sect master of the Fu Hai sect, Qi Tianxing. While the 2 were playing chess, the jade talisman at his waist flashed, and Qi Tianxing's movement paused for a moment, then he smiled and said, "Martial uncle, Qin Shujian has gone to sea." "Yes," Si Hanhai said softly and didn't say anything else. While they were talking, the chess pieces were already counted. The 2 didn't seem to need to think while playing chess. With each passing breath, they could think of many countermeasures. Qi Tianxing said, "Martial uncle, you have fought with Qin Shujian. What do you think of him? His cultivation is profound. If you don't have complete confidence, you can't be his enemy." Si Hanhai pondered for a moment, and said. Qi Tianxing looked surprised. "Martial uncle, you can't defeat Qin Shujian with your means?" Others didn't know the truth, but he knew it very well. His martial uncle had broken through to the 4th level of the celestial human realm 1,000 years ago, becoming the first Saint Realm cultivator in the cultivation world. This number 1 was not the number 1 from ancient times to the present. It was the first in the current cultivation world. As for now, although Qi Tianxing didn't know if other sects had hidden Saint Realm cultivators, in his opinion, even if there were, they couldn't be his martial uncle's match. Si Hanhai hadn't shown his strength for many years. But based on his own intuition, Qi Tianxing was sure that his martial uncle's strength was enough to deserve the title of the strongest cultivator in the cultivation world. Si Hanhai said, "Don't underestimate the people in the world. Qin Shujian's reputation is not unfounded. Although he hasn't reached the Saint Realm, his strength is no weaker than a Saint Realm cultivator." The result of this fight was not clear. Although the fishing rod in his hand was broken, it was just an ordinary fishing rod. It couldn't withstand the power of a celestial being. It didn't mean that he lost because the fishing rod was broken. But in Si Hanhai's opinion, Qin Shujian's strength was not to be underestimated. If they really fought, Si Hanhai showed an unfathomable smile and said, "I can see that Qin Shujian didn't come to the East One Mansion this time. He might not be here for the East One Mansion. Maybe he was just passing by. Since he has gone out to sea, it seems that there is something in the sea that he needs." "What could be in the sea that he needs?" Qi Tianxing frowned. Although there were many resources in the vast sea, there were also many dangers in the sea. Although the Fuhai sect was located in the East Wind Mansion, they didn't have much control over the sea. It wasn't that they didn't want to control it, but that they didn't have enough strength to do so. It wasn't just the Fuhai sect. Even the imperial court had little to do with the sea. But Qi Tianxing was sure that there were no powerful forces in the sea. Otherwise, the Great Zhao wouldn't have been safe for so many years. At most, there were some powerful ferocious beasts and monsters. This was also why the imperial court never cared about the sea. At most, there were some small islands in the sea with some idle forces. Most of them were ferocious beasts and monsters. Ordinary cultivators were at risk of dying when they entered the sea. If it wasn't necessary, no one would enter the sea. Although there were many resources in the sea. But to be honest, in terms of resources, the sea was still lacking compared to the human territory and the endless mountain range. This was also the main reason why the imperial court didn't get involved in the sea. Only the Eastwind Mansion, which was close to the sea, would occasionally set foot in the vast sea. But it was just a little bit. It was impossible to go deep into the sea. Si Hanhai shook his head and said, "There are too many unknowns in the sea. Even powerful cultivators may not have the opportunity to set foot in the deepest part of the sea. Maybe there really are some treasures. Martial uncle, do you think we should make a move?" "Make a move? Send people to die?" Si Hanhai said lightly. "Don't think too much. If there is any treasure in the sea, it should have been taken by the Fuhai sect. Since it wasn't taken by the Fuhai sect, it means that there is no treasure in the sea, or the treasure shouldn't be taken by the Fuhai sect. If we take it by force, we will suffer the wrath of the heavens." At last, Si Hanhai warned. Suffering the wrath of the heavens? Qi Tianxing was skeptical. With his strength, even if there was the wrath of the heavens, it wouldn't be a threat to him. Perhaps only the heavenly punishment from the hell shackles could threaten him. Qi Tianxing thought so. But he didn't refute Si Hanhai. Indeed, there were too many dangers in the endless sea. Ferocious beasts and demonic beasts were secondary. Some dangerous places formed by nature could even kill a celestial being. There used to be many experts who explored the sea. The reason why there were fewer people in recent years was that many experts had died in the sea. Among them, there were even 3 celestial beings among them. The 3 celestial beings entered the sea one after another, but they never came out. They entered the sea and never came out. For many people, this was a death in disguise. Si Hanhai said, "Send someone to pay attention to the dock. If he comes back from the sea, don't act rashly to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings." "Martial nephew understands." Qi Tianxing nodded and said. They sent people to follow Qin Shujian, but they lost some people. Although there were only 2 casualties, it was still a huge loss for the Fuhai sect. For so many years, the Fuhai sect hadn't lost many people. There were few fights in the entire East Pattern Mansion. As a top sect, no one dared to provoke the Fuhai sect. So there were even fewer fights about the Fuhai sect. And even if there were some fights, they would stop. At most, there would be some injuries. In terms of deaths, there were very few of them. And in the East Pattern Mansion, killing people was a big crime. Generally, other sects would join forces to hunt them down. Even players rarely dared to kill people in the East Pattern Mansion. Most of them killed some monsters and ferocious beasts to level up. They could do this. Not only the Fuhai sect was controlling, but other sects and forces also helped. Therefore, the East Pattern Mansion was peaceful. Now that 2 people from the Fuhai sect died at once, it was no small matter. If it weren't for Qin Shujian's strength, the Fuhai sect and other sects would have already taken action. That is, Qin Shujian's strength was amazing. If there was a conflict, it would cause more deaths and injuries. That was why the sects in the East Pattern Mansion were afraid. After all, the title of the strongest person in the cultivation world was not just for show. Now that he heard that Si Hahai didn't take down Qin Shujian, Qi Tianxin gave up the idea in his heart. If he couldn't take it, then so be it. As long as Qin Shujian didn't make trouble in the East Pattern Mansion, it would be enough. If he really made trouble in the East Pattern Mansion, he believed that his martial uncle would never sit back and watch. Chapter 532. In the Sea. A small boat braved the wind and waves as it sailed into the distance. Qin Shujian stood at the bow of the boat with his hands behind his back. The wind only blew his clothes slightly. Along the way, many boats were overtaken in an instant. Damn, it must be a small electric motor. Driving so fast, it must feel good when it hits. F***CK. Some players who were rowing the boat strenuously looked at the small boat that flew past them. After being stunned for a few seconds, they couldn't help but complain. Compared to the other party. Looking at the people who were rowing the boat, it was simply 2 extremes. Although a cultivator could use true essence to drive the boat after breaking through to the true martial realm. But doing so would consume too much true essence. And it wouldn't last long. As for the speed, it might be faster, but it definitely wouldn't be much faster. Like Qin Shujian, who passed by with a whoosh, it was simply blinding their titanium dog eyes. Different from the complaints of the players. Some local cultivators had serious expressions as they looked at the boat that had become a small black dot. They couldn't help but say, "I wonder which expert entered the sea alone. To be able to use true essence to drive the boat so fast and ensure that the boat doesn't break, his strength is at least at the prominent divine realm, or even the god martial realm. Prominent divine realm, god martial realm, it's really fascinating." Hearing this, some people also sighed with emotion. In this world, cultivators who could cultivate to such a level were not rare, but there were definitely not many of them. In the past, the appearance of such an expert would attract the attention of many people. On the other side, Qin Shujian had already sailed the boat and completely left the range of the dock. At this moment, he sat on the boat and took out a small tea table from his storage ring. Then, he took out a tea set and placed the osmanthus spirit tea that he had already prepared on the tea table. With a light wave of his sleeve, a small stream of water rose from the sea and gathered towards the teapot. In the process of flying, all the impurities in the water were removed. The entire process. It was completed in less than a breath. Qin Shujian held the teapot in his hand. In less than a breath's time, the tea inside had already boiled. After tossing and turning for a while, Qin Shujian tasted the spirit tea and looked at the surrounding scenery. The sea view was also considered a scenery, so he was in a good mood for a while. As a great cultivator of the Deva realm, he should have been flying. However, Qin Shujian had no intention of flying. Firstly, it was still a problem whether there were islands in the sea. It was fine to fly occasionally, but if one were to fly for 10 days to half a month, even if it would not consume much of one's divine sense, one would still feel nauseous. Therefore, Qin Shujian chose to buy a small boat for his own use. In any case, using true essence to drive the boat would not be much slower than flying in the air. This time, Qin Shujian was prepared for a long voyage when he entered the sea. In his opinion, such a small difference in speed was not a big problem. Moreover, flying in the air isn't as comfortable as I am now. Qin Shujian couldn't help but laugh. Sipping tea and looking at the sea view, wasn't that much better than flying? Even driving a small boat would consume some energy, but for a celestial, multitasking was a trivial matter. Looking at the blue sea surface, Qin Shujian recalled everything about the sea area. From the information he had obtained, the sea area was very large, but no one could give an accurate answer as to how large it was. In addition to that, the dangers in the sea area were no less than in other places. Among all the dangers, there were only two greatest dangers. One was the ferocious beasts, and the other was the forbidden land formed by heaven and earth. The so-called ferocious beasts were actually monsters. They were just called monsters on land and ferocious beasts in the sea. As for how strong the ferocious beasts were, one could refer to the endless mountains for details. And it was different from the endless mountains. All year round, there would be human experts going into the endless mountains to kill some powerful monsters and suppress the development of monsters. But the sea area was different. Almost no human would deliberately enter the sea area to kill some ferocious beasts. After so many years, the sea was not full of ferocious beasts, but there were also many hidden ferocious beasts. Among these ferocious beasts, there were even existences that could threaten celestials. If his strength had not broken through to celestial, Qin Shujian would not dare to set foot here easily. In addition to the ferocious beasts, it was the forbidden land formed by heaven and earth. These forbidden lands were also commonly known as natural disasters. Ordinary natural disasters couldn't threaten celestials, let alone celestials. Even a slightly stronger cultivator couldn't threaten them. But the natural disasters in the sea area were different. Some powerful natural disasters could even make celestials kneel. In general, the sea area was very dangerous. If one was not careful, one would die. The imperial court did not dare to send people to explore the sea area because they could not afford the loss. If too many human experts died here, it would not be a good thing for them. In the past, the human race was threatened by the demon clan. Today, the human race is facing the hidden dangers of the three continents. Before these problems are solved, the human race must preserve enough strength to deal with any possible emergencies. For tens of thousands of years, the sea area has not posed any threat to the human race. Even if there is something here, the imperial court will not easily provoke it. Qin Shujian recalled the rumors about the sea area and the human race, and he had a rough idea in his mind. Humans were born with the impulse to explore and pursue the truth. If there were no external threats, sooner or later the human race would set foot on the vast sea. But now was not the time. For a long time, there had been a hidden danger lurking in the dark, forcing the human race not to be distracted in dealing with it. It was also because of this that there was not much information about the sea area. As for why Qin Shujian knew that the sea area had not posed a threat to the human race for tens of thousands of years, it was because the information from even further back had already disappeared. The lifespan of a celestial was at most 7,000 years. Tens of thousands of years was enough for many celestials to reach the end of their lifespan. As for the others, it was needless to say that they had died many generations ago. For some things, it was understandable that they would disappear after a long time. Qin Shujian did not have the intention to explore the vast sea area. He just wanted to confirm his guess and see if there was anything in the sea area that he remembered. If this is really the Dongxing Divine Continent, then Huagua Mountain should exist. Of course, Huagua Mountain might have sunk. Or not at all. He wasn't sure if he was right or not. But since he was here, there were some things that he had to clarify. Not to mention exploring the true meaning of the world, Qin Shujian at least wanted to know what kind of world he was in. If possible, he also wanted to know why he was here. He just wanted to know. As for the way back, he did not think of looking for it. Now was good. He was strong, lived for a long time, and had a sect with hundreds of thousands of people. Wherever he went, he was respected. Where else could he find such treatment? The boat cut through the sea. The ripples on the water gradually disappeared after the boat left. Qin Shujian sat on the boat, looking at everything around him leisurely. In fact, his spiritual will had spread out and covered thousands of miles. It was said that there were many ferocious beasts in the sea area. As his spiritual will covered the area, he also found many weak auras. These weak auras were only in front of Qin Shujian. In fact, most of these auras were at the true martial realm. Some of them were at the spirit martial realm. However, Qin Shujian had not gone too deep into the sea. It had only been about half an hour since he had left the dock. Half an hour. Given the speed of the boat, it was enough to travel a few true provinces. It seems that there are indeed many ferocious beasts. If the people of the East Pattern Prefecture were fishing, they would not have gone too deep. As for the sea near the dock, there are no ferocious beasts. Qin Shujian spread out his spiritual perception, paying attention to the changes in his surroundings. There were no ferocious beasts at the dock. He did not need to guess to know that the experts of the Covering Sea sect or the Imperial Court had exterminated those ferocious beasts. After all, many people in the East Pattern Prefecture relied on the sea to survive. If the sea was full of ferocious beasts, then most of them would starve to death, and their lives would be extremely difficult. However, after traveling for a while, Qin Shujian also discovered a problem. The spirit qi in the sea was much denser than in the East Pattern Prefecture. The spirit qi is so dense. No wonder so many ferocious beasts were born. However, does the density of the spirit qi mean that there are many spirit stones in the sea? Qin Shujian was slightly stunned. Soon, he came back to his senses. Spirit stones! Yes, there were many spirit stones in the sea. Any spirit stones that appeared in the human clan would be collected by the cultivators. The human clan was not involved in the sea, and the ferocious beasts were not very intelligent. Therefore, there must be many spirit stones buried at the bottom of the sea. Otherwise, how could the spirit qi in the sea be denser than in the human clan? There were cultivators in the human clan, and ferocious beasts in the sea. Everyone was rich in spirit qi, so no one was better than the other. Qin Shujian was a little excited as this thought lingered in his mind. This time, he mainly wanted to confirm his guess. However, if he could take the opportunity to fish for some spirit stones, it would be a good thing for him. However, this was just a thought. Qin Shujian did not really take action to search for spirit stones in the sea. Although this place was far away from the dock, it was not too far away. If there were really spirit stones, the human clan might have dug them all out after so many years. He could think of something. Qin Shujian did not think that others could not think of it. Whoever treated the people in the world as fools would be the biggest fool. There's no hurry. When we go deeper into the sea, there might be spirit stones. Although the density of spirit qi is not weak now, it's still far from the level of spirit stones. Suppressing the thoughts in his heart, Qin Shujian drove the boat and continued to sail in the sea. Whoosh! The boat rode the wind and broke the waves, shuttling through the sea like lightning. Boom! The sea in front of them suddenly became turbulent. Powerful fluctuations spread out in all directions, causing the waves to surge as if a tsunami would occur at any time. Qin Shujian put down the teacup and walked to the bow of the boat. He looked at the turbulent sea with his hands behind his back. His expression was as calm as ever. The boat under his feet did not slow down at all. At this time, the waves rose up, and it was more than 10 feet high. Then, it slammed down heavily, causing a terrifying fluctuation. When the surrounding ferocious beasts sensed the fluctuation, they all fled in all directions. At the same time, a series of shocking roars came from the sea. Qin Shujian looked at the sea, and his vision directly penetrated the obstruction of the sea. He just happened to see 2 tall beasts fighting each other. One was a giant ape-like beast. The other was a giant tortoise. The giant ape stood up, and it was more than 10 feet in size. Every punch stirred up the sea. The tortoise that was fighting with the giant ape had a greenish-black shell, and it was not smaller than the giant ape in size. In its open mouth, There were sharp fangs, and the claws on its limbs were like steel needles. At first glance, it was not a character to be trifled with. Between the two, it was unknown who was looking for trouble. The battle between the two caused a lot of movement in the sea. In Qin Shijian's perception, the strength of the two beasts was probably between the airborne realm and the prominent divine realm, but he was not sure which level they were at. Boom! A huge muffled sound came. The giant ape's fist slammed heavily on the tortoise's shell. The terrifying force did not break the tortoise's shell. Instead, the tortoise bit the giant ape's body, causing a rain of blood. The giant ape was in pain. However, the pain did not make it afraid. Instead, it stimulated the fierceness in its heart. When the tortoise was about to retract its head, its broad palm directly grabbed the tortoise's neck and immediately squeezed hard. A terrifying force erupted, causing the tortoise to suddenly bleed from its 7 orifices. However, the tortoise did not show any weakness. Its sharp claws desperately slashed at the giant ape. Its thick hair and hard skin were easily cut open by the sharp claws, and blood instantly dyed the sea red. The giant ape roared in pain, but it did not let go of the tortoise's neck. Its other hand was madly hammering at the tortoise's head. The two beasts were fighting. Qin Shijian also saw it. It looked like a simple fight, but it was a fatal attack. This was the instinct of living creatures. For these beasts with no intelligence, killing was carried out by instinct in their bloodline. Those instincts. It was deeply engraved in their bloodline by their ancestors who had been fighting day and night. From the beginning of the battle until now, only 10 minutes had passed. Whether it was the giant ape or the tortoise, they had reached the point of life and death. The giant ape's chest was badly mutilated, and one could vaguely see its beating heart. The seawater wanted to pour in, but it was blocked by a mysterious force. As for the tortoise, it was not easy either. The giant ape's strength was incomparably powerful. Its head was badly mutilated, and even its brain juice flowed out. But even so, neither of them intended to stop. This is a beast, more terrifying than the monster beasts in the endless mountain range. If such a beast was thrown in the endless mountain range, it could fight against 3. In the end, Qin Shijian's eyes also became a bit dignified. The strong were afraid of the stupid. The stupid were afraid of the suicidal. These two ferocious beasts gave him the feeling that they didn't care about their lives. If it was the monster beasts, when the battle reached this extent, their instinct would drive them to retreat and return to their nest to lick their wounds. But for the beasts, injuries, on the contrary, aroused their fierceness. Qin Shijian muttered to himself. Perhaps the difference between ferocious beasts and demonic beasts isn't just a matter of living in the sea and on land. There's also a difference in biological instincts. Ferocious beasts are much more savage than demonic beasts. In just a short while, the two beasts had reached the point of death. Seeing this, Qin Shijian no longer hesitated. With a move of his divine thought, the terrifying power directly controlled the seawater and turned it into a big hand, pinching the two beasts. The next moment, the two beasts directly exploded. A large amount of blood mist dyed the sea red. 2 fist-sized crystal stones appeared in Qin Shijian's hand, and in the storage ring, there was an additional tortoise shell. Beast core. Qin Shijian smiled slightly. The two beasts contributed 2 beast cores, which could be considered a gain. The reason why he made a move. It was purely to harvest the source of life. After all, the two beasts were going to die no matter how one looked at it. It was better to die in his hands. To be honest, at Qin Shijian's level, it was rare for him to hunt ferocious beasts and demonic beasts, because there was no need for that. For him, every level up now required at least tens of billions of life sources. Unless it was a celestial. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would have to kill tens of millions of beasts of other levels to have a chance to raise his strength. However, there are no human cultivators in the sea. They are all beasts without intelligence. Maybe I can take this opportunity to harvest a wave of life sources. Qin Shijian thought for a moment, and a smile appeared on his face. Normally, killing ferocious beasts would not yield much life force. However, if he used the Red Lotus of Delusion, he would be able to obtain more life force. Putting away the two beast cores, Qin Shujian also moved the tortoise shell in the storage ring slightly. The tortoise shell that was 10 feet long, which was the storage ring he was using now, belonged to Du Chengwu of the Fallen Moon Mansion. Otherwise, it would not be able to put such a big thing. He put away the tortoise shell. This was because the tortoise shell itself was a high-grade material. Coupled with its huge size, its value was not much lower than that of ordinary 9th-grade materials. Now, more than half of the Yuan sect had been emptied. It was always good to be able to replenish some. After casually killing the two beasts, the smell of blood spread out and attracted many beasts. However, Qin Shujian had already left his original position. The sea was vast. Now, he was not really deep in the sea. Although Qin Shujian seemed to be traveling aimlessly now, with his celestial perception, he had already formed a navigation route in his mind. Because the sea had not been explored much by the human race, there were no navigation routes sold in the Great Xiao. Even if there were, it would be some sea areas close to the human race. These navigation routes were not of much use to Qin Shujian. This world should have a square sky and a square earth. In other words, if I keep moving forward, I will only reach the end of the world and will not turn back to the human race's territory. In that case, if I want to explore the entire sea, I will have to go back and forth a few times. The divine senses of a celestial were powerful. But compared to the sea, it was just a drop in the ocean. Now, according to Qin Shujian's point of view, it was a straight line forward. Instead, his divine senses spread out thousands of miles and constantly searched ahead. In other words, the straight line that Qin Shujian was walking was thousands of miles wide. Whoosh! The small boat cut through the sky and the waves at an extremely fast speed. Unlike the calm sea in front, the sea where Qin Shujian was now was full of beasts killing each other. From time to time, waves would be set off. The smell of blood mixed with the smell of the sea water made people frown. With the appearance of the small boat, some of the ferocious beasts that were fighting stopped in an instant and chased after Qin Shujian. However, the speed of these beasts, compared to the speed of the small boat, they were much slower. By the time they reacted, the small boat was only a black dot. Boom! A huge wave of thousands of feet suddenly rose, as if covering the sky and the sun, and smashed down heavily on the small boat. Qin Shujian waved his sleeves, and a terrifying aura spread out, turning into an indestructible air wall that blocked the crashing wave. The weight of thousands of feet of sea water was more than 1,000,000 catties. But even so, it could not do anything to the air wall at all. Disperse! Qin Shujian waved his hand again, and the crashing wave crashed back to its original position. Rumble! A terrifying fluctuation spread out. Roar! With an angry roar, a giant beast thousands of feet suddenly appeared from the bottom of the sea. It was an octopus that had been magnified countless times. Then, a black shadow rose from the bottom of the sea, setting off a large number of waves. The next moment, the black shadow covered the small boat, and the sky darkened in an instant. Qin Shujian put away the small boat with one hand, and then his body expanded to 3,000 feet in size, and he grabbed the falling black shadow with one hand. It was a tentacle thousands of feet long and hundreds of feet thick, and the force of its fall could easily destroy a mountain range. But this force had no effect in front of Qin Shujian. Grabbing the tentacle with one hand, Qin Shujian pulled hard, and the giant beast was directly pulled out of the sea by him, and then smashed heavily on the surface of the sea. Qin Shujian took a step forward, and a mysterious force emerged from the seawater under his feet, supporting his body from sinking. His fist had already shattered the void, and landed heavily on the octopus body. One punch. A bloody mist exploded from the octopus body, and dark green blood dyed the sea. Roar! The octopus roared in pain, and countless huge tentacles frantically wrapped around Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian grabbed several tentacles with both hands, and then pulled hard. Suddenly, these tentacles were torn in two, and the intense pain caused the other tentacles of the octopus to twist irregularly. And he took this opportunity to continue to attack the other party. A great battle. In the blink of an eye, it erupted. That terrifying force spread out, and some of the beasts that wanted to approach instinctively scattered at this time. Whether it was Qin Shujian or not, or the aura of the giant octopus, it was not something these beasts could withstand. Although the beasts did not have intelligence, they still knew when to fight and when to turn around and run. Speaking of seeking luck and avoiding disaster, the beasts were better at this than some humans. Chapter 533. Boom! Boom! The waves surged into the sky and then crashed down heavily. Even more seawater flowed to an unknown location in the shattered space. A great battle broke out, stirring up the sea. That huge octopus had no power to fight back in front of Qin Shujian. All the attacking tentacles were pulled off by him. A large amount of blood sprayed out, dyeing the blue seawater with a different color. Die! Another fist smashed down, and the octopus's head cracked. Finally, this beast was scared and wanted to escape to the bottom of the sea. However, there was no way Qin Shujian would let a divine-level beast escape. He spread out his divine thought, and a large formation directly covered the octopus. Immediately, the red lotus of purgation ignited and devoured the octopus in its shrill screams. Soon, a red lotus appeared in the void. Qin Shujian swallowed the red lotus, and a pure energy surged out. Originally, he had opened 512 star acupoints, but now, under the impact of this energy, 2 of his star acupoints trembled as they opened. The formation was removed. The boat was taken out from the storage ring. Qin Shujian leaped onto the boat, and the boat once again broke through the waves. In the boat, Qin Shujian sat there and checked the condition of his body. After devouring the divine-level octopus, he obtained 100 million life force. In addition, he also indirectly opened 2 star acupoints. Compared to the harvest of 100 million life force, the opening of 2 star acupoints made Qin Shujian even happier. It seems that after becoming a divine-level beast, the red lotus of purgation can refine more power. In the past, the demonic beasts refined by the red lotus of purgation did not contain much power. If he were to refine a ferocious beast that was roughly at the first layer of the sky-human realm, he would be able to open up 2 star acupoints. In the past, he would at least be able to reach the pinnacle of a certain level. The Wisdom King Hellfire of the spiritual martial realm absorbed a very small part of the power. The red lotus of purgation of the divine martial realm absorbed some power from the divine-level beast. Now that it has become a divine-level beast, the power that the red lotus of purgation can absorb has become more powerful. Qin Shujian estimated that the power that the red lotus of purgation refined just now was at least 1/10 of the original power of the divine-level beast. Don't underestimate 1/10 of the power. If he had refined such a strong power when he was in the spiritual martial realm, the power of the moon-devouring monster king would have been enough to make him explode. A beast at the first level of the sky-human stage can open up 2 insight acupoints. If I kill a few more, I might be able to open up a few more insight acupoints. It might even be possible for me to reach the 3rd level of the sky-human stage. Qin Shujian's eyes lit up. He did not mean to underestimate 2 acupoints. Because the more acupoints, the more acupoints, the more acupoints. And the powerful divine-level beasts in the sea area were far beyond his expectation. How long had he been in the sea area? In less than half a day, he was attacked by a divine-level octopus. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, now he was not in the depths of the sea area. He was still in the periphery. But even so, he could still encounter a divine-level beast. While feeling happy, Qin Shujian was also surprised by the danger of the sea area. Divine-level beasts. I don't think there have been any divine-level beasts in the mountains of infinity. This alone makes the divine level beasts much more powerful than the divine level beasts. I'm still in the periphery and I've already encountered a divine level octopus. If I go deeper, I may encounter divine level or divine level beasts. It seems that the sea area is more dangerous than I thought. With his current strength, he could kill divine level beasts below the 4th level of the celestial realm. As for divine level beasts, if they were not at the peak of the saint realm, he was confident to kill them if he used all his means. As for divine level beasts, Qin Shijian silently thought about the probability of him escaping. Divine level beasts had no intelligence. This was an advantage. Qin Shijian discovered this from the big octopus just now. Even if they broke through to the divine level, the intelligence of these divine level beasts did not increase much. His thoughts were running wildly. Qin Shijian quickly made a decision. Keep hunting divine level beasts along the way and try to improve my realm as much as possible. If I encounter divine level beasts below the 4th level, I'll kill them with all my strength. As for the divine level beasts, the first thing to do is to run. He looked at his storage ring. Finding that it was poor, he felt helpless. However, he did notice a bow and arrow placed in the corner. The storage ring flashed. There was an extra bow and arrow on the ship. I'm suffocating. As soon as the cosmos bow appeared, it let out a comfortable cry. Qin Shijian's face darkened, and he shouted, "Shut up! If you scream again, I'll put you back immediately." "No, no!" the cosmos bow said hurriedly. "Put it back." Thinking of the darkness in the storage ring, the cosmos bow felt that it was going crazy. The cloud-piercing arrow was good. Although it had intelligence, it was not much. For a Tao artifact like the cosmos bow, which was no different from an ordinary person, to be trapped in the storage ring was really unacceptable. After saying that, the cosmos bow also noticed the surrounding environment and said, "Sect Master, this is the sea area? You know?" Qin Shijian raised his eyebrows slightly, took a sip of spirit tea, and said, "After dealing with the big octopus, he did not suffer any injuries." With Qin Shijian's current strength, it was no problem for him to beat up a divine level 1 or 2. He could also suppress a divine level 3. Only a divine level 4 was qualified to fight with him. The cosmos bow said, "I also have a little memory of the sea area, but not much." "Tell me," Qin Shijian said. He also wanted to know how much the cosmos bow knew about the sea area. This time, he headed to the sea area. Qin Shijian did not bring many Tao artifacts with him. He was wearing the dustless immortal robe, the 13th grade golden lotus, the cosmos bow, and the cloud-piercing arrow. Even the 1,000 mountain blood, which he had always liked to use, was left in the sect as a precaution. There were only 2 reasons for bringing the cosmos bow. One was that the other party was already a 5-sealed Tao artifact. Together with the cloud-piercing arrow, it was comparable to a 6-sealed Tao artifact. The other was that the other party had profound knowledge. Although in Qin Shijian's opinion, the cosmos bow's knowledge might not be correct. But at least it was good to have a reference. At this moment, after hearing the cosmos bow's words, he knew that he was right to bring it out. At least this cosmos bow really knew about the existence of the sea area. The cosmos bow said, "I remember that when heaven and earth were born, there didn't seem to be a sea area. Then, there seemed to be a ray of light, and then a sea area appeared in the world." "What light?" Qin Shijian asked. "A ray of light? What kind of light was that?" According to what the cosmos bow said, heaven and earth were only land in the beginning. The cosmos bow said, "I don't know what light it is, but since the sea area appeared, there has been a mysterious force lingering there, which has given birth to many terrifying beasts. Sect Master, there are many beasts in the sea area, and there are even many at the celestial being level. If you want to go deep into the sea area, you have to be careful. The combat power of the beasts is not much worse than that of the human race." The cosmos bow's tone was solemn. In this regard, Qin Shijian didn't say anything. He wouldn't show off and tell the other party that he had just killed a celestial being level octopus. Showing off to a bow, Qin Shujian felt a little bored. What else? After the Cosmos Bao finished speaking, Qin Shujian asked. He really wanted to say, "That's it. That's your understanding of the sea area. What's the difference between saying it and not saying it? Who doesn't know how dangerous the beasts in the sea area are?" Except for the first sentence that he didn't know whether it was true or not, everything else was nonsense. The Cosmos Bao said, "Sect Master, the sea area has always been mysterious. I've never been to the sea area. It's not easy to know so much. Then forget it. You'd better go back. By the way, there's one more thing that I thought of." Seeing that Qin Shujian was about to take it back, the Cosmos Bao was scared out of its wits. Going back again. If it wasn't for the fact that it couldn't refuse Qin Shujian, it would rather stay in the forbidden area and cultivate. Although there was no one in the forbidden area, at least it could see the surrounding scenery. Qin Shujian stopped what he was doing and said, "What else?" In addition to the beasts in the sea area, there are also some natural disasters. Sect Master, don't underestimate the natural disasters. There is a mysterious force in the sea area that causes the natural disasters here. They are not real natural disasters. The Cosmos Bao finished in one breath. Qin Shujian stopped what he was doing. He picked up the teacup and said calmly, "What do you mean by not real natural disasters?" In his opinion, the Cosmos Bao was really cheap. It didn't know how to speak properly. It had to be forced to know what to say. It was not a real natural disaster. He also wanted to know more about it. After all, the natural disasters in the sea area were enough to threaten celestial beings. This was unusual in itself. The Cosmos Bao said, "Different from the natural disasters in other places, there is a mysterious force in the sea area. This force intercepts the marks left by the strong in the world and then turns them into natural disasters. Intercepts the marks left by the strong in the world. What does this mean?" Qin Shujian seemed to understand something. He could roughly understand the Cosmos Bao's words, but he didn't understand it completely. In other words, once the strong in the sea area fight, some of the strong moves will be intercepted by the sea area and then become natural disasters in the future. And such natural disasters, to put it bluntly, are the traces left by the strong in the past. Understood. Understood completely. After hearing what the Cosmos Bao said, Qin Shujian finally understood the cause of the natural disasters in the sea area. Ordinary natural disasters couldn't threaten celestial beings. Not to mention celestial beings, even some powerful real martial arts realm couldn't be threatened by natural disasters. But the natural disasters in the sea area could even threaten celestial beings. This was unusual in itself. According to what the Cosmos Bao said, many things made sense. Natural disasters were actually not natural disasters. Instead, the sea area completely showed the scene of the strong in the past. In other words, if a strong in the god martial arts realm made a move, then the mark of power was intercepted by the sea area and then shown in the form of a natural disaster. Then some practitioners in the spirit martial arts realm and real martial arts realm would have no way to survive when encountering such a natural disaster. Because what they encountered was not an ordinary natural disaster. It was equivalent to a great practitioner in the god martial arts realm. What is the strongest and weakest natural disaster in the sea area? Or will anyone's move be recorded by the sea area? Qin Shujian asked. The Cosmos Bao didn't know about this. Hearing this, Qin Shujian didn't continue to ask. The fact that the Cosmos Bao could know this information was also very useful to him. At least, he understood how the natural disasters came about. Intercepting the mark of a strong person was an incredible thing in itself. It was okay for ordinary practitioners. But once the mark of a strong practitioner in the celestial being level was intercepted and then shown by the sea area, it would be a disaster for other practitioners. How strong was the power of a celestial being? Qin Shujian knew very well. Even the weakest celestial being could easily kill an ordinary practitioner in the god martial arts realm. Immediately, Qin Shujian thought of another possibility, and his face suddenly became serious. The power of a practitioner in the celestial being level could threaten the strong practitioners below the celestial being level. But if there were powerful practitioners fighting in the sea area, the natural disasters formed would also be destructive to the celestial being. According to the information collected, there were no strong practitioners in the human clan who stepped into the sea area, let alone powerful practitioners who had been there. But it didn't mean that there were no records of it in the past. What if there were powerful practitioners fighting in the sea area tens of thousands of years ago, or hundreds of thousands of years ago? No one could say for sure. Qin Shujian knew that even if he encountered a natural disaster of this level, he would have to kneel down. Wait, Qin Shujian said. Is it only when practitioners fight that the power mark will be intercepted? If the fierce beasts fight, will the mark also be intercepted? It shouldn't be, the Cosmos Spouse said with uncertainty. Qin Shujian's face suddenly darkened. There weren't many human clan practitioners in the sea area, but there were a lot of fierce beasts. And the fierce beasts fought all year round. If heaven and earth could really intercept the power mark of fierce beasts, then the fierce beasts in the sea area were much more terrifying than he imagined. There were already celestial being level octopuses in the outer area. In the inner area and even in the depths of the sea area, if there were no powerful beasts, Qin Shujian would cut off his head. If that was the case, the frequency of natural disasters was a bit high. Soon, Qin Shujian muttered to himself, that shouldn't be the case. If it's really possible to intercept the power of the ferocious beasts, the sea should be full of natural disasters. How could it be so peaceful after so long? But no one is sure how often natural disasters form. What if the frequency is very low? Qin Shujian was a little confused. But he quickly calmed down. Natural disasters were natural disasters. With his strength, as long as it wasn't a mighty level natural disaster, then everything was fine. If it was a mighty level natural disaster, Qin Shujian looked at the 13-grade golden lotus in the storage ring and made up his mind. He still had this defensive treasure with him. He couldn't beat it. It shouldn't be a problem to escape. That's not right. Qin Shujian looked solemn and looked at the calm sea area. There was nothing there. Why is it that after I came to the sea area, the first thing I thought of was to escape? Although I was afraid of death, I wasn't afraid of death to this extent in the past. Could it be that there are other forces in the sea area that are affecting people's hearts little by little? Or is this my instinct? As soon as the last thought emerged, it was extinguished by Qin Shujian. He knew that he was afraid of death, but he was a heavenly man after all, so he still had the confidence. He abandoned the possibility of being afraid of death. In other words, there was another force in the sea area that was subtly affecting people's hearts, making people afraid and even terrified of this place. Qin Shujian took a deep breath. It can even affect the thoughts of heavenly men. This sea area is too strange. At the thought of this, the fear in his heart emerged again. But as soon as it emerged, it was forcibly suppressed by Qin Shujian. The sea area is too mysterious. But the more mysterious it is, it means that there are things that others don't know. As the saying goes, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. Since I've already gone to sea, I can't go back with my tail between my legs. Let's go a little further and see the situation first. Qin Shujian calmed his mind and steered the boat forward. Escape. How could he, Sect Master Qin, be afraid before fighting? If he wanted to escape, he should at least see something that could threaten his life. Now there was nothing. If he turned around and left, he would lose face as Sect Master Qin. As the boat sailed, they encountered many fierce beasts along the way. The weak ones were at least above the 5th level of the martial realm, and the strong ones even reached the god martial realm. For this, Qin Shujian took action and swallowed all the fierce beasts in the god martial realm with the red lotus of purgation. When he swallowed 20 fierce beasts in the god martial realm, another star acupoint was forcibly opened by the force. Combined with his previous gains, he now had a total of 515 stellar acupoints. After going out to the sea area, in less than a day, he opened 3-star acupoints. Qin Shujian was very satisfied with this gain. As time went by, the golden crow had already fallen. Looking at the setting sun, Qin Shujian said, "Do you know where the golden crow will go after it falls?" He was asking about the bow of heaven and earth. Qin Shujian had never thought about this question before. For his previous life, there was a reasonable explanation for the rising and setting of the sun. As for this life, no one had any doubts about the rising and setting of the sun. But here came the question. Now the sky was round and the earth was round. Then where would the golden crow go after it fell? Looking at the falling sun and the sea area reflected by the sun, a thought suddenly came to Qin Shujian's mind. When the sun set, would it be the end of the sea area? On the other side, the bow of heaven and earth said, "I'm not sure where the sun and moon will fall, but looking at the situation, the sun should fall in the depths of the sea area." Qin Shujian nodded slightly. The bow of heaven and earth happened to agree with him. Suddenly, Qin Shujian had the idea of going to the depths of the sea area to have a look. If the sun was really hiding in the sea area, then the secret would be big. At night, Qin Shujian didn't drive the boat with all his strength, but let it drift on the sea. Just like the sea during the day, the sea at night was also full of danger. Some beasts were active during the day, and some were active at night. As they went deeper into the sea, the beasts didn't seem to stop fighting for a moment. Now the sea surface. It was no longer the original blue, but a faint blood red. As for the source of the blood red, it was the blood of the beasts. Qin Shujian was sitting in the boat, sipping spiritual tea while looking at the moon in the distant night sky. No one knew what he was thinking about. As for the bow of heaven and earth, it didn't do anything for it. As long as it wasn't locked in the storage ring, other problems wouldn't be a problem. The waves rose as if to drown the boat. However, before the waves reached the boat, they were forcibly suppressed by an invisible force. A beast of more than 100 feet jumped up, opened its bloody mouth, and was about to swallow the boat. Qin Shujian didn't need to say anything. The bow of heaven and earth shot out a spiritual arrow, which instantly pierced through the beast. The beast that had jumped up lost its vitality, and fell heavily to the sea surface. Soon, it sank to the bottom of the sea. Qin Shujian didn't look away from the moon from beginning to end. A beast of the spirit martial arts realm. He didn't take it seriously at all. With the power of the bow of heaven and earth, not to mention the spirit martial arts realm, even a beast of the god martial arts realm could be easily killed. This was the power of a 5-seal Taoist weapon. Even without the owner's control, the Taoist weapon could suppress enemies below the celestial being realm with its own power. The night passed quickly. In an instant, the sun rose again. It was worth mentioning. The sun in this world was different from what he knew in his previous life. It didn't rise in the east and set in the west. Instead, it would fall from the side it rose from. Qin Shujian didn't pay much attention to this vision before. In addition, he didn't have a strong sense of direction, so sometimes he just thought he saw it wrong. But it was different now. Yesterday, he saw the sun set with his own eyes. Today, he saw the sun rise with his own eyes. It set and rose in the same place. There were a lot of things that could be explained. At the same time, heaven and earth shook. A hurricane rose from the sea surface, connecting heaven and earth. Some beasts fled one after another, and some were rolled up by the hurricane and then torn to pieces by the power inside. Natural disaster! When they saw the hurricane, Qin Shujian and the bow of heaven and earth both had the same thought. After a day and a night in the sea area, they finally encountered a natural disaster in the sea area that made people tremble in fear. Qin Shujian stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the raging hurricane. His eyes flickered. "This is a natural disaster," the bow of heaven and earth said. "That's right. There should be a powerhouse's power mark in the depths of the hurricane. Sect Master, you still have to be careful. Be careful. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. He did have to be careful. But, he looked at the natural disaster in front of him and felt that the power contained in it was a little weak. At least, it didn't pose any threat to him. In an instant, Qin Shujian could be sure that even if there was a powerhouse's mark in the hurricane, the person who left the mark wouldn't be too strong. It's a good opportunity to see how powerful the natural disaster in the sea area is. Qin Shujian held the bow of heaven and earth in one hand, looked at the hurricane and pulled the bowstring. Boom! You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.